Chapter 591. 78.75 million in box office and 25.98 million in peripheral sales meant that A Chinese Ghost Story had created more than 60 million in sales on the first day. For a movie that had a screening rate of just over 15%, it was already very dazzling. Most importantly, the 25.98 million in peripheral sales was too beautiful. It did not lose to some popular Hollywood IP blockbusters at all, and the profits were more than the proportion of the box office. In the following movie release cycle, the peripherals of A Chinese Ghost Story could become a golden hen that laid eggs. Many of the employees who stayed at Chinfei Media that night were in the industry and deeply understood the meaning of this. Therefore, their cheers were from the bottom of their hearts. In addition to the box office and peripheral sales on the first day, the audience's comments on A Chinese Ghost Story, on Waves blogs, film and television-related websites, and forums were also collected and summarized by the marketing staff of Chinfei Media. Guangying website rating 8.7, 1,785 ratings. Guangying website was a very famous community website in China. It mainly recommended and reviewed movies, television shows, and books. The Guangying ratings largely reflected the audience's evaluation of movies and TV series. This part of the audience was mainly artistic and petty bourgeois netizens, so their ratings had nothing to do with the movie's box office and TV series ratings. It only represented a kind of comment direction. It was worth mentioning that the shareholder of Guangying website was Guangying Cinemas. As a commercial film, it was undoubtedly rare for A Chinese Ghost Story to be able to obtain an 8.7 rating on Guangying website, which was more artistic and niche. That was because the members of Guangying website were quite picky. On Tomato website, 5,693 fresh tomatoes, 385 rotten tomatoes. The freshness is 93.23%. Tomato website was a more popular movie website. Whether it was influence or scale, it was not something that Guangying website could compare with. The evaluation of the film on this website was not reflected by the score. Instead, the audience who liked it would send a fresh tomato, virtual rating prop, and those who did not like it would send a rotten tomato. The number of fresh tomatoes minus the rotten tomatoes divided by the original number was the freshness. On the other hand, if the number of rotten tomatoes exceeded the fresh tomatoes, then the rotten tomatoes would be calculated, the sign of a rotten film. For a movie that had just been released, as long as the quality was not too bad or too ugly, usually, the freshness would be higher. However, there were only two situations where the freshness could exceed 90% on the first day. One was that the producers had cheated to increase the number of tomatoes, and the other was that the movie was indeed well received. Whether it was Lu Chen Studio in the past or Chinfei Media now, although they attached great importance to online publicity and marketing, they never used cheating methods to falsify. This was Lu Chen's pride. Therefore, without any cheating, A Chinese Ghost Story got 93% freshness, which was undoubtedly a very exciting thing. Especially for the marketing department of Chinfei Media, it was equivalent to millions of publicity. Waves blog movie rating, 5 stars, 25,307 reviewers. A 5-star rating of 86.75%. QQ movie rating 9.1. There were many professional or unprofessional film rating websites in the country, but there were only 10 or so that had influence and reference value. When the data of these 10 or so websites were summed up, the overall rating of A+ for A Chinese Ghost Story, second only to the highest S grade. Any movie, even if it had an A rating on the first day, would already be considered a preliminary success in the market. An A+ rating meant a good reputation. This score, which was calculated by a special software, also represented a strong follow-up market potential. It could affect the number of cinemas and cinemas. Clap clap clap. When Lu Chen walked out of the office with Chin Fei, and Lu Shi, the employees who had been working hard in front of the computer, all stood up. They congratulated and paid tribute to the boss with neat and loud applause. "Thank you, everyone." Lu Qin raised his hands with a smile, motioned everyone to be quiet, and then said, "Thank you for your hard work. I believe everyone must be very hungry now, right? I'll treat everyone to a midnight snack." Although it was already 3:00 in the morning, in Beijing, it was not a problem to find a restaurant to eat at any time, especially in the business district, where there were many businesses that were open all night. Tomorrow, no, it should be today's holiday. After eating and drinking, everyone should have a good sleep. All employees' bonuses this month will be doubled. When Lu Qin said the last sentence, the cheers in the office area almost broke the glass. This kind of atmosphere full of vigor and vitality basically didn't exist in those big companies and groups. It represented the power of prosperity and a strong cohesiveness. A Chinese Ghost Story's first day box office, 38.75 million, peripheral sales, 25.98 million inch, QQ, the rise of a new genre of domestic movies. A Chinese Ghost Story's box office yesterday was excellent, shocking word of mouth. EasyNet. A new record for domestic movie peripheral sales, A Chinese Ghost Story, sells 25.98 million. Movie Express. Unafraid of the pressure of Hollywood blockbusters, A Chinese Ghost Story delivers a good result on the first day, everyday entertainment. On April 3, the second day of the official release of A Chinese Ghost Story, in China, many websites, media, and newspapers published review articles, and even appeared on the entertainment headlines of several major websites. In the current domestic film market, the box office of 38.75 million on the first day of A Chinese Ghost Story was actually not high. In recent years, there were many films with a box office of more than 100 million on the first day. A box office of 30 to 40 million did not have much reporting value at all, unless the film's public relations investment was in place, then they could brag about it with their eyes open. However, the situation of A Chinese Ghost Story was different from other films. First of all, this film was quite a hot topic on the internet. A few days ago, the famous film critic Wang Xiaoxiu and Lu Chen's fans had a war of words on Wave's blog. At one point, it was even on the homepage of the hot search list. Secondly, the investment of this film was only 30 million yuan, and its opponent was the Hollywood special effects blockbuster Vulcan, which was currently in the limelight. There was also the failure of the similar film, The Painted Skin. With less than 20% of the screening, it was able to obtain a box office of nearly 40 million on the first day. It was really worth it. However, the box office of A Chinese Ghost Story was not the focus of the media's interest, but its peripheral sales. 25.98 million. This data was too dazzling, making people unable to look at it directly. They even had doubts. Many people, including many media reporters, wanted to ask, was this real? It was too explosive. Because Vulcan, which crushed A Chinese Ghost Story in the box office, completely lost to this new film produced by China and Hong Kong in peripheral sales. Chapter 592. Before A Chinese Ghost Story, peripherals were basically a minefield for domestically produced movies, including Hong Kong and Taiwanese movies. Movie peripherals were almost exclusive to Hollywood movies in the United States. The sales of peripherals in movies adapted from novels, comics, and games could even exceed the box office. The huge profits were really enviable. It was not that domestic filmmakers and film investors had not tried it before. They also wanted to eat some cake from it, but they were often beaten black and blue. In the end, they were all discouraged. The reason for this was rather complicated. The maturity of the market, the audience's acceptance, and even the peripherals themselves were all related. The popular IP of domestically produced movies also lacked the creativity and willingness to produce peripherals. They often relied on posters and the like to make up the numbers. In the past, domestically produced movie peripherals sold the best, claiming to have sold tens of millions of copies. However, the data was questionable and very exaggerated. A Chinese Ghost Story had sold 25.98 million yuan of peripherals on the first day. Although there was the fan effect of Lu Qin and Qin Fei, it was still very unbelievable in the eyes of the industry. Doubtful, the circle fell silent. However, the reaction of Lu Chen's fans was completely different. When the official Weibo of A Chinese Ghost Story released the first-day box office and peripheral sales results, countless fans ran to Wang Xiaoshu's blog to mock it. Didn't you say that the box office of A Chinese Ghost Story was not good? It was nearly 40 million on the first day. Didn't you say that the peripherals of A Chinese Ghost Story were fake? It was more than 25 million on the first day. Wang Xiaoshu, who had always refused to admit defeat, chose to remain silent for once. He did not retaliate tit for tat. That was because he was not sure if his previous judgment and prediction were accurate. The box office results of A Chinese Ghost Story on the first day could not be determined. The movie's early publicity and hype were good, and with the popularity of two popular celebrities, it was natural for the box office to be high. Some movies had a high box office on the first day, but after a few days, they would reveal their true colors. As the number of people watching the movie increased, their reputation would rapidly decline, resulting in a dismal ending. Could A Chinese Ghost Story be one of them? Wang Xiaoshu was not completely confident. Even though his previous prediction was based on his understanding of the market, the sales of A Chinese Ghost Story were too dazzling. It was really unbelievable. As a well-known film critic in the industry, Wang Xiaoshu had his own information channels and sources, so he more or less knew the inside story. The first-day box office and peripheral sales of A Chinese Ghost Story might very well be completely real. This made Wang Xiaoshu feel as if his common sense had been subverted. He shut himself at home for an entire day, stationed in front of the computer, browsing the web, and smoking 2 packs of cigarettes. In the end, Wang Xiaoshu decided to go to the cinema to watch A Chinese Ghost Story and understand the situation. Without investigation, he had no right to speak. He was prepared to seriously write a review of A Chinese Ghost Story. The movie tickets that Wang Xiaoshu had booked online were for the night of April 4th. He was also free the night before, but perhaps because it was too late, he didn't manage to book the tickets to the nearby cinemas. The tickets for the night show were all sold out. At 8 p.m. on April 4th, Wang Xiaoshu finished watching the movie that he had once questioned in Hall 3 of the Mother Earth Cinema in Beijing's 3rd Ring Road. It was exactly 9:30 when he finished watching the movie. Wang Xiaoshu was squeezed in the crowd and looked a little ugly. Then he went to the movie and souvenir shop on the right side of the hall. In a cinema where every inch of land was worth its weight in gold, the area of the surrounding shops was, of course, not large. The large space was reserved for the ticket office, drinks, and food. The sales of popcorn could account for 20 to 30% of a cinema's revenue. When Wang Xiaoshu arrived, there were already more than 10 to 20 customers in the shop. They were all young people, and most of them were couples. The place was filled with large movie posters, and several display counters were filled with all kinds of movie peripherals. There were figurines, sets of accessories, props, costumes, daily necessities, and so on. It was a dazzling lineup under the spotlight. Wang Xiaoshu noticed that the goods on the display counter of the Mother Earth Cinema were almost divided into 2 parts. Half of them were peripherals of The Showdown of Vulcan, such as spaceship models, cartoonish versions of the male and female protagonists, alien monsters, and so on. They were full of technology and were quite expensive. It was said that most of the peripherals of Hollywood movies were processed and manufactured in the United States, so these things were basically imported. It was normal for them to be expensive. The other half was filled with peripherals for A Chinese Ghost Story. There were figurines of different versions of the movie's characters, movie posters, soundtrack albums, and a commemorative set that included accessories. Wang Xiaoxiu even saw a shining sword, the model of Qi Yanxia's magic sword. The sword hanging on the wall was a real thing made of metal. Although it did not have a sharpened edge, it was very well made. The details were as gentle as in the movie. 8 dark red seal scripts faintly appeared on the surface of the sword. Heaven and earth infinite borrow the power of heaven and earth. Wang Xiaoxiu was very familiar with these 8 words. In the movie, Qi Xia Yan was crazy and infatuated. When he cast spells, he chanted the incantation, which made people's blood boil. In Wang Xiaoxiu's opinion, Qi Xia Yan was the most distinctive and dazzling character in the movie, and it had been a long time since such an impressive character had appeared in a domestic movie. He casually picked up a Qi Xia Yan doll that was placed on the glass cabinet. It was only the size of a palm, but it was made to look lifelike. Its form, spirit, and intent were all in place. It was not inferior to the dolls in Showdown with Vulcan at all. In fact, it even surpassed them in terms of characteristics. Wang Xiaoxiu knew very well that such a thing could not be produced in a day or two. The design, mold, and production all took time. The film had undoubtedly started planning very early on. And its price was only half that of its competitors. How bold! Wang Xiaoxiu secretly sighed in his heart. He put the Qi Xia Yan doll back, but after hesitating for a moment, he picked it up again and walked toward the cashier. 58 yuan was really not expensive, and he really liked it. There were already 2 couples lining up in front of the cashier, and they bought more than Wang Xiaoxiu. Wang Xiaoxiu waited patiently. After paying, he did not stop. When he returned home, he put the doll he had just bought on the desk and smoked 3 cigarettes. Wang Xiaoxiu was not a heavy smoker, but he had smoked very fiercely since yesterday. After he finished smoking, the smoke was still lingering in the study. Wang Xiaoxiu seemed to have made an important decision in his heart. He suddenly straightened up and began typing quickly on the keyboard with both hands. On the computer screen, a line of black title text was quickly forming, a solemn apology to A Chinese Ghost Story. Chapter 593. Some people would try their best to deny, avoid, or simply pretend to be dead when they did something wrong or said the wrong thing. However, some people would apologize openly, even if it might affect their reputation. There were many big V's and small V's on Waves's blog. There were both types of people. The former undoubtedly outnumbered the latter. Some would even rather go to court and lose money than apologize because they were worried that they would lose fans. Wang Xiaoxiu was undoubtedly the latter. He was very good at writing and never easily admitted defeat when arguing with others in his column and blog. However, if he was really wrong, he would not insist on it for the sake of face. At 10:05 p.m. on April 4th, the well-known writer and film critic solemnly apologized to A Chinese Ghost Story and Lu Chen on his personal blog, which had 1.75 million fans. The reason for the apology was naturally because he had questioned the box office and peripheral sales of A Chinese Ghost Story in Hong Kong on Weekly Movie Talk. It turned out that he was wrong. That was because tonight, Wang Xiaoxiu personally went to the cinema to watch the movie and bought a peripheral product. Without investigation, he had no right to speak. He admitted that he had made a subjective mistake and had a habitual bias against domestic movies. However, he did not expect A Chinese Ghost Story to be so outstanding. In this blog post, Wang Xiaoxiu praised A Chinese Ghost Story. He felt that the movie had reached a very high standard in terms of plot, characters, soundtrack, background props, and special effects. Especially in terms of soundtrack and character creation, it could be called a real masterpiece. The peripheral products of A Chinese Ghost Story were not only abundant in quantity, but also of excellent quality. The price was not very expensive. It was both unexpected and reasonable for it to be able to achieve such high sales. Whether it was the movie itself or the peripheral products, the producers had done it with the word heart. In the past decade or so, the domestic film market had continued to be popular. Coupled with the advent of the internet era, film reviews were no longer limited to a few professionals. Online blogs, Taobao forums, and netizens who discussed the film were everywhere. However, in this circle that was neither big nor small, Wang Xiaoxiu was undoubtedly an influential film critic. Not only did his film review articles appear on his personal blog, but they were also often published in newspapers and magazines. Therefore, when his movie review, written in the form of an apology, was published on his blog, it immediately caused quite a stir in the industry. Many people in the industry forwarded or commented on it. When the fans who had been mocking Wang Xiaoxiu saw this, they immediately changed their stance. They liked Wang Xiaoxiu's sincere apology and forwarded it in large numbers. The number of fans on Wang Xiaoxiu's blog quickly exceeded 2 million. Many ordinary netizens who saw Wang Xiaoxiu's blog post couldn't help but be curious about A Chinese Ghost Story. Everyone wanted to see if this highly praised film was genuine, so they all ordered tickets online. Although some people suspect that Wang Xiaoxiu has been paid to join hands with Luchan to hype up, such a voice is too weak to set off any storm. The reason was very simple. It was because the opponent that A Chinese Ghost Story was facing was an imported Hollywood blockbuster, and not a domestic film with a huge investment. Otherwise, the voices of doubt would be at least 10 times louder. Public opinion on the internet could affect reality, especially the reputation of a movie. A Chinese Ghost Story had a box office of 38.75 million on the first day of April 2nd, and it broke through 40 million the next day. On the 4th, it reached 43 million, breaking through 100 million in 3 days. What was even more shocking was that on April 5th, the box office of A Chinese Ghost Story soared to 65 million plus, and the screening rate had exceeded 30%, strongly beating Showdown with Vulcan. Showdown with Vulcan had been released for 2 weeks, so it was inevitable that the box office would decline. However, the problem was that ever since A Chinese Ghost Story was released, its box office had declined very much. Especially on the 5th, it had fallen to 37 million, losing to the 28 million box office of A Chinese Ghost Story. In the words of a certain person in the industry, it was a shock to the eyes of the entire world. Showdown with Vulcan was aiming for more than 1 billion yuan. Its real opponent was originally Lion Pictures' fantasy blockbuster, Legend of the Holy Land, which would be released on April 9th. It was also a Hollywood blockbuster with a huge investment. Unexpectedly, it lost to A Chinese Ghost Story before Legend of the Holy Land arrived. In terms of publicity, scale of investment, and special effects, Showdown with Vulcan could easily crush A Chinese Ghost Story. Such a result was really shocking. On April 6, 7, and 8, the box office of A Chinese Ghost Story continued to rise with the increase in the screening rate, pulling out an extremely dazzling line. On the 8th, the day before Legend of the Holy Land was released, the box office broke 100 million yuan in a single day. For a domestically produced movie, this was undoubtedly a miraculous existence. Although it was not unique, it was definitely the only one in recent years. From April 2nd to 8th, A Chinese Ghost Story was released for a week, and its box office reached 420 million yuan in the first week. The industry fell silent. Many people knew that the investment for A Chinese Ghost Story was only 30 million yuan. The domestic publicity and marketing were basically not much different from this amount. Even if the subsequent publicity investment was included, it would not exceed 100 million yuan at most. The 420 million yuan box office had already steadily earned back all the costs and achieved a considerable profit. Not only that, the peripheral sales of A Chinese Ghost Story had also reached more than 80 million yuan, creating an unprecedented record for domestically produced movies, including Hong Kong and Taiwanese movies. Furthermore, this sales result had Big Battle of Vulcan, a Hollywood blockbuster with an investment of more than $100 million actually lost to a domestically produced movie in peripheral sales. This was something unimaginable in the past, but it had really happened now. This could not help but remind people of Lu Chen's bold words on his blog, saying that A Chinese Ghost Story would take in 500 million yuan at the box office and over 100 million yuan in peripheral sales. At that time, other than Lu Chen's hardcore fans, not many people believed him. Many people in the industry even secretly mocked his arrogance, thinking that he had lost his mind. What about now? It was not a problem for A Chinese Ghost Story to exceed 500 million yuan at the box office. It was not a dream to hit 1 billion yuan, but it had such real potential. Those who had mocked Lu Chen back then had their faces slapped swollen. The real surprise was yet to come. On April 9th, due to the release of Legend of the Holy Land, A Chinese Ghost Story finally dropped, as if relieved of a heavy burden. The box office on that day was 87 million yuan. However, with almost the same screening rate, the box office of Legend of the Holy Land only exceeded 80 million yuan. It actually lost to A Chinese Ghost Story, which had been released for 8 days, on its first day. Chapter 594. The film industry was a highly profitable industry. Take the current domestic film market for example. With so many film companies in it, the 3 major cinema chains and small and medium-sized cinema chains were desperately building cinemas all over the country. Of course, they wanted to take a bite out of this extremely tempting cake. In the past decade, there was no lack of films with only an investment of 20 to 30 million yuan that became a huge success. In the end, they earned hundreds of millions or even more than 1 billion yuan at the box office. The profits were so high that it was enough to shame the traditional industry. However, if one carefully analyzed these low-budget high-box office films, they would discover the secret behind them. They were either young idols or comedies. There were basically no exceptions. Other high-box office films came from high investment. Investment of 1 to 200 million yuan was common. Domestic blockbusters were trying their best to approach Hollywood in terms of special effects, which also led to the continuous increase in production costs. As a domestically produced film, A Chinese Ghost Story had not surpassed everyone at the box office. There were many domestically produced films that had grossed more than 500 million yuan in the first week. There were 7 or 9 examples that could be casually mentioned. However, A Chinese Ghost Story was a fantasy ghost film with a small investment. The 420 million yuan in the first week made it an extremely special example. It also seemed to have opened a door for its peers in the industry. It turned out that this type of movie could be made like this. A Chinese Ghost Story did not involve much computer special effects, and the production was rather sophisticated. Many scenes used props and traditional filming methods, but after editing and synthesis, the effect was very outstanding, especially the battle scenes, which could be said to be ingenious. It was much better than those colorful and flashy special effects. And the reason for its success was not just that. The characters with distinct personalities, the poignant and moving love story, the main characters' looks, and the impeccable ancient soundtrack formed a classic. That's right, it was a classic. After watching A Chinese Ghost Story, many people in the industry felt that this film was enough to lead the new trend of domestically produced fantasy/ghost films. It was fully qualified to become a classic. On the internet, A Chinese Ghost Story had a high reputation, and its overall rating had been maintained at A grade. Many film critics strongly recommended it on their own blogs, and the entertainment media reported on it. All these factors combined to create the high box office of A Chinese Ghost Story, which had also suppressed its new and biggest competitor, Legend of the Holy Land. Compared to A Chinese Ghost Story, Legend of the Holy Land, which had just been released, had a much worse reputation. This Hollywood blockbuster's box office in North America was lackluster. It had originally wanted to recoup its capital in China, but the audience did not really like it. On April 10, the box office of A Chinese Ghost Story dropped slightly to 81 million yuan, taking another big step towards the 1 billion mark. On the other hand, Legend of the Holy Land dropped to 47 million yuan. Although the box office had exceeded 100 million yuan in 2 days, such a high drop clearly indicated a bleak future. Interestingly, another domestically produced film, Our Youth Is Not Lonely, which was released at the same time as A Chinese Ghost Story, rose by 1 or 2 million yuan against the market, highlighting the weakness of Legend of the Holy Land. Nowadays, domestic movie audiences had already experienced the baptism of Hollywood blockbusters. It was obvious that pure special effects and visual stimulation could no longer satisfy everyone's needs. Therefore, Legend of the Holy Land, which focused on special effects and lacked in plot, was easily abandoned. From a certain point of view, the days when any Hollywood blockbuster could sweep the domestic market were long gone. However, many industry insiders believed that if there was no A Chinese Ghost Story, or if A Chinese Ghost Story was replaced by The Painted Skin, which had already been taken off the market, the box office of Legend of the Holy Land would not have fluctuated so much. On the evening of April 12, Qinfei Media held a celebration party for the box office of A Chinese Ghost Story to exceed 500 million yuan at the Makati Cultural and Arts Center in Beijing. The threshold for movies was getting higher and higher. In the past, a box office of more than 100 million yuan was worth celebrating. Now, holding a celebration party with less than 500 million yuan would be laughed at. However, for A Chinese Ghost Story, a box office of 200 to 300 million yuan was enough. The box office earnings of the movie so far had already made the industry raise their eyebrows. Therefore, on the day of the celebration, all the media invited by Qinfei Media were present. There were also many uninvited reporters gathered outside the Arts Center, wanting to try their luck. The celebration party for A Chinese Ghost Story was held in a grand manner. It had been organized a few days ago and all the original cast of Hong Kong had been invited, including Nie Mingzhu, who played the female lead, and Ma Rongjin, who played the role of Yan Qixia. The two of them also received a lot of attention from the media, especially Nie Mingzhu, who had already become popular in the mainland because of A Chinese Ghost Story. She became the focus of the scene and there were countless flashes on her. As usual, other than the media reporters and guests in the industry, there were also many lucky fans. They had all obtained the qualifications through a lucky draw on the blog. These fans and guests got a beautiful gift as soon as they entered the venue. All of them were satisfied. They also made the atmosphere of the scene extremely lively and explosive. Especially when Lu Qin, Qinfei, Nie Mingzhu and Ma Rongjin teamed up to open a huge bottle of champagne, the whole audience burst into thunderous cheers. After that, Lu Qin accepted interviews from many media outlets. There were nearly 20 microphones with logos in front of him, and even more reporters surrounded him. A reporter could not wait to ask Lu Qin, "Will you film the second installment of A Chinese Ghost Story?" Lu Qin shook his head without hesitation. "No, but I've already sold the copyright of A Chinese Ghost Story to my partners, so it's possible to make a second or even a third installment, but I won't participate in it again." If he wanted to make a movie, there were too many scripts to choose from. There was no need to rely on a sequel to rely on the original. This surprised the reporters a little. After all, it was completely reasonable for a movie to have a sequel. Lu Qin was actually willing to give up this huge profit. But then again, without him as the male lead, the sequel would lose a lot of its luster. Then what do you want to shoot for your second movie? Lu Chen smiled and said, this is a secret for the time being. At present, I'm preparing to shoot my third TV series, You from the Star. It's expected to start filming at the end of this month. This was considered a piece of news that was neither big nor small. There would definitely be many TV fans of Lu Chen who would be interested in it. However, the reporters were not satisfied. Someone asked, excuse me, why did this movie choose a newcomer as the female lead and Chen Fei, or as the villain? The reporter's eyes lit up, obviously hoping to dig out some big information from Lu Chen's mouth. Chapter 595. In the face of the endless questions from the reporters, Lu Chen answered them with ease. Even if the other party's questions might be tricky or even a little malicious, he was always able to deal with them easily. There was no lack of humor, which made the experienced reporters secretly admire him. If Lu Chen was a big shot in the circle who had been famous for many years, it would be normal for him to have such an outstanding performance. However, he had only debuted for 2 years, so it was inevitable that people would click their tongues in wonder. It could only be said that he was talented. In other words, Lu Chen was born to make a living in this bowl of rice. Such an evaluation was definitely not an exaggeration. Looking back at Lu Chen's singing and acting career over the past 2 years, it could only be described as a miracle. His rise in the circle was very fast. Although he was not unparalleled, his pop music and film and TV series were in full bloom and had borne fruitful results. It was really a unique existence. The domestic entertainment industry in 2015 and 2016 had really become very different with Lu Chen. And in 2017, he had opened the curtain on his own new year with the box office hit, A Chinese Ghost Story. It was believed that at this moment, the entire entertainment industry could feel his warmth. For a young man with a promising future, the reporters, who were used to seeing storms, were a lot more cautious. In addition, they had received a red packet, so the following questions seemed very normal. Interviews, celebrations, performances, lucky draws. A lively celebration party ended successfully. The reporters and fans who came to support left in satisfaction, while the original cast of A Chinese Ghost Story reunited again to reminisce about the past and talk about the future. Lu Shi had booked a table in a high-class restaurant near Makati Cultural and Arts Center. Lu Chen, Chen Fei, Nie Mingzhu, Wan Xiaoquan, Chen Wenxiang, Ma Rongjin, and the others were all gathered together. The atmosphere was harmonious and joyous. After 3 rounds of wine, Lu Chen specially toasted Ma Rongjin and asked, Uncle Ma, how have you been recently? Ma Rongjin drank the red wine in his glass in one gulp and said with a smile, thanks to young Master Lu, everything has gone smoothly. Today, he was wearing a brand-name suit. He looked energetic, and he looked at least 10 years younger. The celestial master celebrity from back then had returned. Everything was going well for Ma Rongjin now. The success of A Chinese Ghost Story had turned him around. His net worth and salary were close to the peak of his heyday. He had endless film contracts and advertisements, and he had long gotten rid of his previous embarrassing situation. Chen Wenxiang teased, Brother Ma is in the limelight now. The number of girls pursuing him can line up from Hong Kong and Kowloon to Central. Ma Rongjin smiled bitterly and said, Brother Chang, please be magnanimous and have mercy on me. He even made a gesture of begging for mercy, which made everyone laugh. Even Nie Mingzhu, who was whispering to Chen Fei, raised her head. Her bright eyes wandered as she pursed her lips into a smile. Putting aside Lu Chen and Chen Fei, A Chinese Ghost Story had made 2 people famous in Hong Kong. One was Ma Rongjin, and the other was Nie Mingzhu, who played Nie Xiaoqian. However, unlike the proud Ma Rongjin, Nie Mingzhu did not choose the path of a rising star after becoming famous. She appeared to be extremely low-key. She did not accept any announcements or advertisements, nor did she participate in shows. She even rarely appeared in public. Many media outlets wanted to interview her, but they were all turned away. She seemed very mysterious. However, this mystery did not damage Nie Mingju's popularity in Hong Kong. Her fans were increasing, and many people even named her the #1 beauty in Hong Kong. Therefore, it caused a lot of trouble in the circle. However, no matter how much the outside world was buzzing, Nie Mingju still did her own thing. She did not look like someone from the entertainment industry at all. However, this time, she happily agreed to come to the celebration of the 500 million box office of A Chinese Ghost Story. She even accepted many media interviews. She really gave face. Lu Qin knew through Chen Wenxiang that Nie Mingju's family background was not ordinary. Making movies was just her interest. Ma Rongjin asked, "Young Master Lu, are you really not planning to make a second installment of A Chinese Ghost Story?" He knew that Lu Chen had transferred the follow-up movie rights of A Chinese Ghost Story to his partner, Jiayang Pictures, and that he had also received a high-priced contract from Jiayang Pictures. However, in the heart of this veteran actor, he still hoped that Lu Chen would be the lead actor in the sequel. The feeling of working with Lu Chen was really great. Ma Rongjin knew very well that if there was no Lu Chen, the second installment of A Chinese Ghost Story might have a good box office, but it would be wishful thinking if it wanted to win the same success as the first one. Many people in the Hong Kong film industry said that Yan Qixia was the essence of A Chinese Ghost Story, but Ma Rongjin knew very well that Lu Chen was the soul of this movie. Hearing Ma Rongjin's question, everyone turned to look at Lu Chen, including Nie Mingju. Lu Chen did not hesitate. He smiled but shook his head firmly and said, "No more." Although they knew the answer, everyone could not help but be disappointed. Most of the people present hoped to work together again, because the sense of accomplishment brought about by shooting a classic was really incomparable. Chen Wenxiang sighed and said, "What a pity," while feeling sorry. He also sincerely admired Lu Chen. One had to know that even many famous directors, after the success of their first movie, would strike while the iron was hot to rush to make a second or even a third movie. They would maximize the value of the successful movie, and even make it to the point where the audience was tired of it. In the history of Hong Kong's film industry, there was no lack of sequels that were made. For Lu Chen to be able to resist such temptation, one could imagine how strong his will was. Once he made a decision, he would not easily change his mind. Often, such people could achieve the greatest success. However, even Chen Wenxiang did not expect that while Lu Chen was refusing, there was something else. He took out the gift bags that he had prepared and handed them to Wan Shaoquan, Ma Rongjin, Nie Mingju, Chen Wenxiang, and the others. Everyone took them curiously. Nie Mingju asked, "What is it?" The square-shaped gift bag was quite heavy, and it was wrapped up nicely. Lu Chen smiled and said, "You will know when you open it." Nie Mingju did not stand on ceremony. She directly tore off the wrapping paper and was immediately stunned. It's a book. This gift bag was a hardcover edition of a novel. It was placed on the cover of the first ancient book, and the words, "The Smiling, Proud Wanderer," were very eye-catching. The smiling, proud wanderer. None of the people present were fools. Holding the set of 5 books in their hands, they all came to a sudden realization. Was this the second movie that Lu Chen was going to shoot? Did that mean that they would have a chance to work together again and shoot another movie together, a martial arts movie? Chapter 596. Wuxia movies were not a new genre. As early as the 70s and 80s, Xiangjiang's film companies had made many wuxia movies, which were quite popular at that time. But in the late 90s, due to the influence of Hollywood action blockbusters, Xiangjiang's local film industry was severely impacted. In order to cater to the appreciation of the new generation of young people, many types of movies, including zombie movies, ghost movies and wuxia movies, gradually disappeared. If someone else wanted to make a wuxia movie, Ma Rongjin, Chen Wenxiang and others, who knew the ups and downs of Xinjiang's film industry very well, would definitely advise them not to get involved. But Lu Chen was different. Lu Chen proved his strong talent in movies with A Chinese Ghost Story, and The Chinese Ghost Story itself has a certain martial arts element. For example, at the beginning of the movie, the scene where Ning Kaichen met a swordsman killing bandits on the road was really exciting. And this fighting scene was directed by Lu Chen, including the action design. In this aspect, he also had the ability to turn something rotten into something magical. Ma Rongjin weighed the book in his hand and said eagerly, "I'll take it back and read it carefully." "Master Lu, what role should I play in this new movie?" Although he knew that he was too eager to ask, he really couldn't help it. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Uncle Ma, you can read the original book first. I haven't written the script for the movie yet. I'll give it to you in a month or two." After a pause, he said, "The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer will be made into 3 parts, at least 200 million yuan. Different from A Chinese Ghost Story, which was adapted from a short story in Strange Tales from a Chinese studio, The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer was millions of words long, and there were more than 5 physical publications. It was basically impossible to condense so much content into a 90-minute movie. The usual way was either to cut a wonderful part of the movie, or to separate it into several parts. Lu Chen had already thought about it. The 3 parts of The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer would be filmed consecutively, so as to save money and maintain the quality of continuity. In addition, The Smiling, the Proud Wanderer would be the first film of the newly formed special effects team of Qin Fei Media. Ma Rongjin and Chen Wenxiang looked at each other. Both of them couldn't suppress the excitement on their faces. It was no wonder that Lu Chen wasn't willing to film a sequel to A Chinese Ghost Story. It turned out that his big move was at the back. He didn't want to live off his past achievements at all. His intention was to create the glory of martial arts movies. Ma Rongjin was even more excited. Since Lu Chen had given him the original novel, it meant that he could choose the roles in it. Furthermore, it was a huge investment. Lu Chen said to Chen Wenxiang, "Uncle Chang, help me find more talents in special effects in Hong Kong. As long as they have real skills and are willing to work in the capital, I'll pay them well." Xinjiang's film industry was known as the Oriental Hollywood. Although it had declined, it had cultivated a large number of professional talents over the past few decades. The overall strength of special effects production was still stronger than that of the domestic industry. In recent years, many Hong Kong filmmakers had come to the mainland to seek development opportunities, including many animation engineers/senior special effects artists, etc., which had injected vitality into domestic movies. However, talents were hard to come by. These senior talents would either set up their own studios or join big companies. It was very difficult to poach them. On the contrary, it was easier to hunt in Xinjiang. Chen Wenxiang patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, young Master Lu. I promise to find a few useful people for you." A Chinese Ghost Story won the box office champion in Xinjiang, and it also made Lu Chen's Xinjiang Film Studio famous. Chen Wenxiang naturally had the confidence to poach people by relying on this famous brand. In Lu Chen's vision, his Xinjiang Film Studio was not only the bridgehead for Qinfei Media to establish a foothold in Xinjiang but also a base for poaching and cultivating talents. With Chen Wenxiang there, he could rest assured. After the discussion, everyone drank to their heart's content until late at night. Chen Wenxiang and the others would not return to Xinjiang immediately. It was Ma Rongjin's first time in the capital, so she naturally wanted to stay for a few more days. Nie Mingzhu and Qin Fei had an appointment to go shopping together. "You two have such a good relationship now." Back at home in Purple Garden, Lu Chen smiled and said to Qin Fei, "Why don't we become sworn sisters?" Qin Fei snorted and said, "Sworn sisters, do you want to sway left and right and enjoy the happiness of having 2 people?" "No. Lu Chen hurriedly complained, and his drunkenness turned into cold sweat. I have never thought of it that way. During the screening of A Chinese Ghost Story in Xiangjiang, some unscrupulous media had hyped up the scandal between him and Nie Mingzhu, but it did not cause any trouble. Chen Fei also knew about it. Chen Fei giggled and rolled her eyes at him coquettishly. I'm just joking with you. Look at how scared you are. In fact, if Mingzhu is willing, I'm very generous. Although Lu Chen drank a lot, his mind was still very clear. I only need you. Chen Fei didn't believe him. You make it sound nice. Although she said so, there was still an intoxicating smile on her face. Lu Chen's heart was swayed. He couldn't help hugging her waist and lowering his head to kiss her. You stink. Chen Fei reached out to stop him and said with disgust, Go brush your teeth and take a shower first, or don't even think about getting on the bed. Lu Chen smiled and kissed her despite her resistance. Then he went to the bathroom to wash up with satisfaction. It was a charming night. The next morning, he was woken up by the phone on the bedside table. Lu Chen always carried 2 mobile phones with him. One was used for work, and he would turn it off when he was resting. The other was used for friends and family, and it was turned on 24 hours a day. Naturally, it was this one that rang. At this moment, Chen Fei was still curled up in his arms and sleeping soundly. Last night, the two of them had a lot of fun. Lu Chen quickly reached out to pick up the phone, for fear of waking up his girlfriend in his arms. Hello. Who was calling him early in the morning? A familiar voice came from the phone. Lu Chen, this is Gao He. When will you have time to come to Hangzhou? Boss? Lu Chen was still a little confused and hadn't woken up yet. What's the matter? Is it important? Gao He laughed on the phone and said, If it's not important, I won't call you. I'll tell you a piece of good news. The games we made have been completed and can be launched at any time. Lu Chen suddenly woke up and said, You mean Happy Farm? Yes. Gao He replied decisively, It's Happy Farm. Chapter 597. Happy Farm is a social, mobile, web game based on planting. Users can play the role of a farm owner on a virtual farm, reclaiming land in their own farm, growing various vegetables, fruits, and so on. This idea was put forward by Lu Chen and provided the funds needed for game production and website operation. It was a new internet project in cooperation with Gao He. At the beginning, Lu Chen came up with this creative idea, first of all, to fulfill the ill-fated couple of Gao He and Wang Xiaoling, so that their love can blossom and bear fruit. Career is the basis of love. Thus, Lu Chen invested 5 million yuan, accounting for 80% of the shares. Gao He and Wang Xiaoling invested 500,000 yuan, accounting for 10%, and the other 10% was used as incentive equity to reward employees who have contributed. With the full support of Lu Chen and excellent creativity, Gao He chose to stay in Hangzhou and start his career with Wang Xiaoling. Wang Xiaoling, the young couple, quickly set up a new company in Hangzhou and recruited people to invest in the production of Happy Farm. As an interactive game that takes into account both mobile and web terminals, Happy Farm is not complicated, and can even be said to be quite simple. With sufficient funds and manpower, it can be completed in 2 or 3 months. Gao He took the 5 million yuan invested by both sides, the guarantee of follow-up capital investment from Lu Chen, and the complete creative idea. It can be said that it was clean and full. With a group of like-minded employees, it took less than 2 months to come up with the first version of Happy Farm. However, when he hurriedly handed over the game to Lu Chen for review, he was poured cold water by Lu Chen. Lu Chen pointed out the problems of the first version of Happy Farm, such as the number of vegetables and fruits that can be planted is too small, the crops are not rich enough, the interaction is not strong enough, the art design does not meet the requirements of cute, and even the basic color is not attractive enough. Lu Chen understands that Gao He is eager to prove his ideas and the pressure of running the company, but since he has to do it, he must do it to the best. Only things that are seriously polished can have lasting vitality. After Lu Chen's criticism and reminder, Gao He's hot head finally calmed down. He humbly accepted the opinions and suggestions put forward by Lu Chen, settled down and continued to complete the game program, and hired experienced designers to redesign the game background, crops, props, etc. Happy Network was established in September last year, and it has been more than half a year now. Gao He finally came up with the final operating version and confidently reported the good news to Lu Chen. Although separated by the phone, Lu Chen can still clearly feel Gao He's joy and confidence at this moment. He also believes that his boss will not let him down. Then send me a copy of the game app. I'll try it out first. No problem. Gao He quickly sent an app installation file to Lu Chen through Feixin, and the file name showed that it was Happy Farm 1.0 internal beta. According to the plan, Happy Farm would focus on the mobile industry. It would focus on mobile phones and tablets, and would also take into account PC and web pages. The installation file was not large, and Lu Chen's mobile phone was a new model, so it only took 10 seconds to complete the installation. An icon containing the sun and farm elements appeared on the desktop of his mobile phone. He clicked on the icon, and the screen quickly turned pure white. A cartoon sun with sunglasses quietly appeared in the upper right corner. In an instant, it emitted thousands of golden rays of light. The words Happy Farm, which had been carefully designed in chibi font, appeared in the center. Below the theme were 4 options, such as Login, Registration, Settings, and Exit. Lu Chen clicked on the registration with interest, and the system switch interface prompted whether to use QQ bundle registration. QQ is the largest instant messaging software in China and even in the world. It has more than 1 billion registered users, and the highest number of online users has exceeded 300 million. It can be called a giant in the IT industry. Many domestic games, especially mobile and web games, support QQ login, which is very convenient for users, and Happy Farm is certainly no exception. Lu Chen quickly registered successfully and logged into the game. The system prompted him whether to join the list of friends who already have a farm. This function is to call those friends in QQ who have already registered Happy Farm. In the future, it can also be expanded to group friends to increase the range of choices. Lu Chen chose yes. The most attractive thing about Happy Farm is its strong interaction. The more friends who play with it, the more fun it is, which can make people fascinated and even addicted. This game was extremely creative. It was once popular in Lu Chen's dream world, but it did not bring too many benefits to the game producer. Because when it appeared, smartphones had just begun to develop, and the channel of profit from the web was much narrower. But now that Lu Chen has moved Happy Farm over, there is no problem at all. Nowadays, mobile games are very popular, and a large number of venture capital has poured into it, constantly creating a legend. He is very satisfied with the smoothness of the registration and the design of the transition animation. Although it is a small game, the carefully crafted things are completely different from the shoddy goods. What he needs is quality. The most important thing is that the closed beta version of Happy Farm is very close to the original version in his memory. The degree of finesse is more than that, and the game interface is more beautiful and attractive. The initial players only have 6 pieces of land, and the system gave them the lowest level white radish seeds. Lu Chen opened the friends list and found that there were already 2 friends in it. Needless to say, these 2 friends are Gao He and Wang Xiaoling. Both of them have high levels. Lu Chen selected Wang Xiaoling and opened her farm. He found that the farmland she planted was ripe for harvesting. He quickly stretched out his thief hand to steal the vegetables. As a result, when his thief hand just put on the ripe pumpkin, he only heard two loud woof woof. A yellow-haired puppy rushed out from behind the house and accurately bit his thief hand. System prompt: you failed to steal, dropped 2 gold coins, reputation value -1. Wang Shaoling actually raised a watchdog. Lu Chen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. A closed beta version still has a dog, really? What kind of game is this? At this time, Chen Fei's voice sounded in his ear. It looks interesting. Lu Chen couldn't help but turn his head and see that Chen Fei had woken up, staring at the mobile phone in his hand without blinking, looking like a curious baby. Lu Chen smiled and said, "This game is called Happy Farm." Chapter 598. Happy Farm. Chen Fei's eyes lit up. Is that the game you used to play with your classmates? She knew that Lu Chen invested in a website to make mobile games, and she also knew the relationship between Lu Chen and Gao He, but Chen Fei didn't understand this aspect at all. She thought that Lu Chen was simply trying to help his classmates. She didn't expect that the game would actually be made now, and it was very fun. Lu Chen smiled and said, "Do you want to play? I'll install one for you too. You can grow vegetables when you are bored." He was very confident in Happy Farm. This interactive game has a strong attraction. Unless you are completely not interested in mobile games, you will inevitably fall into it once you start. Chen Fei certainly agreed, so Lu Chen installed the client on her mobile phone. The operation of Happy Farm was simple, including the functions inside. Not to mention an adult, even a few years old child can master it after playing a few times. So with the guidance of Lu Chen, Chen Fei quickly sowed white radish seeds on her farmland. Remember to water them regularly, get rid of insects and weeds. When the time comes, collect and sell them, then buy new seeds and plant them. The extra money can be used to buy new land, tools and advanced seeds. Remember, when they are ripe, you must collect them in time. I will steal them. Lu Chen smiled very treacherously. Because it was a beta version, although all the functions were complete, because it had not been officially launched, Chen Fei's farm friends were only Lu Chen. Chen Fei was so smart that she immediately found the loophole in it. "Then if I delete you from my friends, will you not be able to steal?" What she said was so reasonable that Lu Chen was speechless. Chen Fei laughed and proudly made a victory gesture at him. "This is shameless." Lu Chen shook his head helplessly and said, "I'm going to Hangzhou. Do you want to go with me?" Happy Network was about to go online, and Happy Farm was officially launched. Of course, he had to go to Hangzhou to take command. They also needed Lu Chen. Chen Fei put down his cell phone, hugged his waist and said, "I won't go. A Chinese ghost story is rushing to the 1 billion box office. One of us has to stay in Beijing." In fact, it didn't matter if Lu Chen went to Hangzhou City a few days later. He had been waiting for more than half a year, so it didn't matter if he waited for 8 or 10 more days. However, A Chinese Ghost Story had already accumulated a lot of energy at its current stage. It was like a rolling snowball, and as long as it maintained its momentum, it would be able to accumulate a higher box office. Whether he was in Beijing or not did not affect much. Chen Fei was more than enough. After thinking about it, Lu Chen said, "All right, the other side is also very anxious. I'll be back in a few days at most." Chen Fei nodded and kissed him on the cheek. They didn't know when it started, but there was a tacit understanding between the two of them. They could understand each other's mood and intentions with a look and a movement. On April 13th, when the domestic box office of A Chinese Ghost Story continued to rush to a new peak, Lu Chen quietly left Beijing with his assistant and flew to Hangzhou in the afternoon. Gao He personally drove to pick him up at the airport. Third brother, you're really fast. Xiaoling said that you might not be able to come. When he saw Lu Qin, he was particularly happy and said, she and I just watched your A Chinese Ghost Story 2 days ago. It was so good. I also bought a set of peripheral souvenirs in the cinema. Lu Qin said with a smile, why didn't you say so earlier? If you had said so earlier, I would have given you a gold limited edition set. Gao He laughed, to increase the sales of your movie. Because of his relationship with Lu Qin, he often watches the entertainment news now. He knows that The Chinese Ghost Story has recently been a great success in China. The box office and the sales of peripheral products have become hot topics in the media. He knows what both mean to Lu Qin. The two haven't seen each other for a while, so they naturally had a good chat. They talked and laughed all the way to the company. The full name of the company established by Lu Qin and Gao He is Happy Digital Interactive Entertainment Company, Limited, or Happy Entertainment for short. It mainly operates projects and businesses related to online games and mobile games. Happy Entertainment is located in the new Binjiang IT Industrial Park in Hangzhou. It is known as the entrepreneurial incubator of Zhejiang New Youth. New internet-related companies settle in it and can enjoy multiple support policies from the government. The current Happy Entertainment is still a small company. The office is only less than 200 square meters in size, and there are about 30 employees. But although it is small, it has all the necessary departments, including technology, marketing, customer service, finance, and logistics. When Lu Qin arrived, it was not time to get off work yet. Most of the employees were there. Gao He gathered everyone and said loudly, everyone, welcome our chairman, Mr. Lu Qin. The employees immediately applauded hard, and everyone showed an excited look, especially the female white-collar workers in the marketing and customer service departments, their eyes were shining. Everyone knows that the biggest shareholder of Happy Entertainment is the big star in the entertainment industry, Lu Qin. Many people chose to join Happy Entertainment because of this. It's just that this is the first time everyone has seen him in person, so they are naturally more excited. It's very encouraging. Lu Qin smiled and said, thank you. Everyone has worked hard during this time. Our Happy Network and Happy Farm are about to go online. Thank you for your efforts. I hope that I can work with all of you to turn Happy website into the best gaming website in the country and make Happy Entertainment the top gaming company in the industry. If it wasn't for your hard work and wisdom, we wouldn't have succeeded. You are the most valuable asset the company has. As soon as his voice fell, there was another warm applause in the office area. Gao He added, our chairman just said that this month's bonus will be doubled. Wow! This time, the morale of the employees directly reached the max. After meeting and talking with the employees, Lu Qin chatted with Gao He in the CEO office. Where's Xiaoling? Where did she go? Gao He said, she went to 7795 headquarters to talk about the platform cooperation. She should be back soon. Lu Qin nodded. 7795 is a well-known web game and small game publishing platform in China. The daily traffic is very high. The company headquarters of this website is in Hangzhou, so it naturally became the first choice website for Happy Farm to promote. But as for how to promote Happy Network and Happy Farm, Lu Qin has his own ideas. The publicity resources he has now are far from what he used to have. Chapter 599. Wang Xiaoling rushed back to the company before work. When she saw Lu Qin, she was naturally very surprised and complained that Lu Qin didn't bring his girlfriend. She is a fan of Qin Fei. Gao He asked about the cooperation with 7795 platform. Wang Xiaoling said that the contract has been signed. When the Happy Network is officially launched tomorrow, they can put advertising on the 7795 website. 7795 claims to have more than 50 million registered members and more than 10 million daily IP visits. Although the data is definitely fake, the effect of advertising on its platform is quite good. Of course, the advertising fee is not cheap. This time, I've brought my men and money with me. In the evening, Gao He and his wife invited Lu Qin to dinner. After a few drinks in the private room, Lu Qin said, "You should be able to get the money tomorrow. Don't just think about saving money. You have to spend what you should spend, and you have to invite the people you should invite." Gao He and Wang Xiaoling looked at each other. Gao He scratched his head and said embarrassedly, "Lao San, you have already increased your investment once, and this time," Wang Xiaoling quickly added, "now our company's money is enough. Happy Entertainment has been established for 7 or 8 months now. Every month, the office rent, salaries, and other expenses are at least 600,000 to 700,000 yuan. Coupled with the investment of various equipment, the original joint investment of 5 million yuan has long been burned out." It was Lu Qin who added a sum of money to maintain the situation. Gao He and Wang Xiaoling are both recent college graduates. They have no experience in running a company. When they came here, they paid a lot of tuition fees, and then they have been burning money without any income. Naturally, the two of them will not be calm. When Lu Qin increased his investment, he did not dilute their shares at all. It remained unchanged at 10%. Now that he wants to invest money again, the pressure on the two of them is very great. Lu Qin smiled and shook his head and said, "Enough. That's impossible." After a pause, he continued, "For this game, Happy Farm, we have to invest at least 10 million yuan in publicity, and we have to continue to increase it in the future, and then there is the development of new projects, 10 million yuan in publicity fees." Both Gao He and Wang Xiaoling are stunned because Happy Farm is just a small game. It belongs to the leisure virtual business category in online games. The production cost is very low. If it is not developed by itself but commissioned a mature and experienced company to produce it, the cost can be estimated to be saved by half. Lu Qin actually wanted to invest tens of millions of yuan in Happy Farm, which was really beyond their imagination. They couldn't help but ask, with such a high investment, can we earn back the cost? Both of them knew that Lu Qin was rich, very rich. A song could be sold for millions, but such a way of burning money made them feel heartache. Wang Xiaoling's original advertising budget for Happy Farm was no more than 1 million yuan. "I'm confident in Happy Farm, and I believe that it can bring us 10 times or even dozens of times more returns. But we can't be satisfied with just 1 or 2 small games. We should have a bigger goal," Lu Qin patiently explained. The memory from the dream world gives Lu Qin a steady stream of inspiration and creativity. After Happy Farm, Happy Entertainment can continue to make Fruit Ninja, Plants vs. Zombies, Angry Birds, and other mobile games that have achieved great success in the dream world. But the development of these leisure mobile games is only laying the foundation for Happy Entertainment. Lu Qin's goal is more ambitious. "Do you know The Smiling, Proud Wanderer?" Gao He nodded without thinking and said, "I know. I also bought a hardcover edition and put it at home. It's a wonderful martial arts novel. It's really well written." The Smiling, Proud Wanderer is currently a best-selling book in the domestic book market, and it has also set off a wave of new martial arts craze. There are many readers, and it has a large number of fans. Lu Qin said, "I have bought all the copyrights of The Smiling, Proud Wanderer, and it is expected to start shooting the Smiling, Proud Wanderer movie trilogy in the second half of the year." "Really?" Gao He suddenly opened his eyes wide and showed a look of surprise. "That's great, you must play Ling Hu Chong, right?" Lu Qin smiled and said, "We'll talk about this when the time comes. I won't hide it from you." The investment of these 3-inch The Smiling, Proud Wanderer reaches at least 200 million yuan. It will be the most important project I will operate this year. Gao He said sincerely, it will definitely succeed. Wang Xiaoling, who was sitting next to him, asked thoughtfully, Lu Qin, are you also going to adapt the smiling, proud wanderer into a mobile game? Compared with Gao He, who likes to study technology more, Wang Xiaoling's mind is much more flexible, and after more than half a year of sharpening, she has shown a certain talent in business, so she is keenly aware of Lu Chen's intentions. Yes. Lu Chen clapped his hands and said, not only mobile games, but also real online games. If it was said that when Happy Entertainment was first established, Lu Chen mainly wanted to help the couple in front of him, but now his thinking about the development of Happy Entertainment has been broadened a lot. Happy Entertainment can be completely integrated into his big IP plan, sharing the two major parts of the IP adaptation of games and anime, especially the game is a very important part of the plan. A movie takes 1 billion yuan in the domestic box office, divided into 300 or 400 million yuan. After deducting the cost and taxes, it will only be about 100 or 200 million yuan. But a well-produced and strong online game can easily make more than 100 million yuan a month, as long as it doesn't mess around. It is simply a hen laying golden eggs. Of course, this industry is also extremely competitive. Lu Chen's plan is to start with a small game like Happy Farm, so that Happy Entertainment can continue to grow and move towards the highest goal. Happy Entertainment's current territory is too small, and we will definitely move to a new place in the future. We need to recruit more professional talents, animation design, game planning, development engineers, programmers, art designers, Lu Chen said with fervor and assurance. That's why I said that the money in the company's account is not enough, and Happy Farm needs a process from online operation to realization of profits. We can't waste time here. Gao He and Wang Xiaoling had nothing to say. According to Lu Chen's goal, spending tens of millions isn't a lot. There was a huge difference between Happy Farm and the smiling, proud swordsman online game, including mobile games. The latter required a lot of manpower and resources to develop. Thinking that the two will still own 10% of the shares of Happy Entertainment in the future, it feels like a dream. Lu Chen raised his glass and smiled, don't think too much about it now. Come, let's drink to success. Tomorrow is the day that Happy Farm is officially launched. Chapter 600. At 6:30 in the morning, Gao He woke up from his sleep on time. When he was in college, he played games very late at night and often woke up at 8 or 9 o'clock during the day. His life was peaceful and comfortable. He had like-minded friends and a gentle and considerate girlfriend. He was really happy. It wasn't until graduation that he realized that life turned out to be so cruel. Fortunately, Gao He persisted. In order to have a better future with Wang Xiaoling, and in order to live up to Lu Chen's good intentions, he put all his efforts into Happy Entertainment. Every day, he would get up early and return late, rain or shine. He often stayed up all night in the company, just to come up with the best products. The Happy Farm, which has just been completed, carries his dream without regrets. And today is the day when Happy Farm officially operates. It's an important day. Memories emerged in his mind, and Gao He's mind became very clear. He bowed his head and kissed Wang Xiaoling, who was still sleeping, and quickly got up to put on his clothes. Today, he will be the first to arrive at the company. You're awake. At this time, Wang Xiaoling also woke up. She opened her sleepy eyes, raised her head, and asked in a daze, "What time is it?" Gao He smiled and said, "It's just 6:30, you should sleep a little longer." Wang Xiaoling rubbed her eyes, gave him a white look, and said, "How can I fall asleep?" She also got up. Last night's party with Lu Chen touched the two of them a lot. Originally, both Gao He and Wang Xiaoling just wanted to run Happy Entertainment well. They didn't want to be at the top of the industry. They just wanted to earn back the investment cost and be satisfied with a car and a house. After knowing Lu Chen's vision for the future of happy entertainment, the two found that their vision was too shallow and their goals were too small. Everyone has ambitions in their heart, but some are big and some are small, and some are buried very deep. Lu Chen's heroic words easily aroused the ambitions of Gao He and Wang Xiaoling. As the first step to realize their ambitions, the success of Happy Farm is crucial. At this moment, Gao He's mood was uneasy, and Wang Xiaoling was excited. The two washed up as quickly as possible, then casually ate breakfast, and went out to take the subway to the company. Just after 8:00, all the employees of the company had arrived. The normal working time was 9 o'clock. Lu Chen arrived at Happy Entertainment at 9 to participate in the Happy website's launch ceremony. The people present were all employees of Happy Entertainment. The so-called ceremony was just a specially prepared computer that could be completed with a click of the mouse. Calling it a ceremony was too much of an exaggeration. Wang Xiaoling announced loudly, "Everyone, let's give a round of applause. Let's invite our chairman to unveil Happy Online." Paw paw paw. Warm applause immediately rang out in the office area. Nearly 30 employees gathered together, and the young smiling faces contained excitement, anticipation, nervousness, and various other expressions. Happy Entertainment had been around for a long time. It was time for Happy Farm to be taken out for a spin. In contrast, Lu Chen was undoubtedly the calmest. He calmly sat down in front of the computer, manipulated the mouse, and gently clicked the confirm button. The image on the screen suddenly changed, and the homepage of HappyNet instantly appeared. At the same time, it was projected on the screen by a projector. The applause was even louder. The website of HappyNet was purchased by Lu Chen as early as last year, and it was not until today that its true face was revealed. The well-designed website was quite eye-catching. The overall style was simple and lively, and the main Happy Farm was placed in the most eye-catching position. Happy Farm 1.0, mobile version, tablet version, web version, and even TV version could be downloaded on the website. All versions were interconnected, and the advantage of QQ platform was used to expand customers. The game itself was completely free, but the game store provided paid props, and the profit was realized by selling props. Unlike mobile games and web-based games that ran away after making a profit, the paid props of Happy Farm did not seriously damage the game balance. For example, there were tools for automatic watering and weeding, but there were no automatic harvesting at a fixed time. Because automatic harvesting at a fixed time would destroy the balance, it would make the players who wanted to steal vegetables lose the fun. Another example would be a puppy that could guard the house. There was a probability that it would bite a thief. It wasn't like having a dog could sleep peacefully. At most, it would only reduce the probability of being stolen. The dog food was charged. A bag of dog food could be fed for 10 days for 1 yuan, and it was only 3 yuan a month. If you don't buy dog food, then the puppy will run away. It was believed that most of the dog users would be happy to pay a little money. The dog itself was designed to be very cute, and there were many breeds to choose from. Don't look at the low value of 3 yuan to feed dog food for a month, but if the number of users goes up, tens, hundreds, or even tens of millions of players online, it would be very considerable, not to mention there were other props. User service and anti-cheating must be done the best. After completing the small ceremony of HappyNet, Lu Chen said to Gao He, "Don't be afraid to spend money. For an interactive game like Happy Farm, if the user scale and influence were small, it would be no different from other small games, and no one would be willing to spend effort to create a plugin. But if the impact was large, and the number of users reached millions or even tens of millions, it would be completely different. Plugins were the destroyers of the game balance. Although the country has corresponding legal penalties, it is impossible to completely eliminate it. They can only rely on themselves to control the attack. If the plugin is allowed to run rampant, the paid props will not be sold at all. It is undoubtedly a fool's dream to want to recover the cost and realize profits. Many games are ruined by the plugin. Gao he patted his chest and said, "Don't worry, in terms of technology, I have invited a top master." In terms of technology, Lu Chen is very confident in Boss Gao. He said that it was a top master, so it must not be wrong. That's good, Lu Chen smiled and said, "You don't have to worry about the game's publicity. I will take care of it." In today's era, it is no longer the era where good wine is not afraid of deep alleys. The real good wine needs to be put on the street and shouted hard to realize its value. Publicity and promotion are advertisements that throw money, but not all publicity needs to spend money. Reasonable use of their own resources, often with only a little money or even no money, can still achieve good results. In Lu Chen's mind, he already has a good idea. Chapter 601. The domestic film market was very hot in April. There were 2 Hollywood blockbusters and many new domestic films. Among them, the American Superstar Pictures had invested $170 million to shoot the sci-fi blockbuster Battle of Vulcan. Its domestic box office had exceeded $1 billion, which was an impressive result. However, in April, Battle of Vulcan was definitely not the biggest winner. The Sino-Hong Kong co-production, A Chinese Ghost Story, which was released on April 2, opened low and opened with a 15% screening rate. By the 20th, the box office had also exceeded $1 billion, and it was only a matter of time before it surpassed Battle of Vulcan. At the same time, A Chinese Ghost Story had also set a record of $125 million in peripheral sales. This not only set the top record for peripheral sales for domestic films, but it also left most of the imported Hollywood blockbusters behind. At the same time that it won high box office and peripheral sales, A Chinese Ghost Story continued to receive good reviews on the internet. The rating on Guangying website was always above 8, and the freshness rating on Tomato website was not lower than 85%. Discussions about this movie had become a trend on blogs and BBS forums. Domestic filmmakers suddenly realized that, in addition to burning money to shoot high-budget special effects blockbusters and youth idol films, films that combined fantasy, ghost, romance, and other elements could also be so successful. This brought about a few rather interesting phenomena. In the book market, the sales of Strange Tales from a Chinese studio soared, and they even ran out of stock, causing many publishing houses to rush to print it. There were also many famous screenwriters in the industry who had received invitations from film companies and entertainment media companies to adapt the stories in Strange Tales from a Chinese studio. There were close to 500 short stories in Strange Tales from a Chinese studio. The famous ones included Lianqing, Fragrant Jade, Little Xia, etc. The Painted Skin and Nia Shaoqian were 2 of them. These fantastical stories vividly expressed the longing and desire of young men and women for free love. The characters in the stories were vivid, the plots were bizarre, the structure was rigorous and ingenious, and the writing style was concise and exquisite. It could be said to be the pinnacle of classical short stories and was very suitable for film adaptation. With a successful example like A Chinese Ghost Story, those sharp-witted investors naturally had their eyes on this collection of novels from the Qing dynasty. It was estimated that there would be many film adaptations released this year and next. The author of Strange Tales from a Chinese studio, Pu Songling, was from the Qing dynasty. He would not have any copyright requirements, so the cost of the adaptation could be said to be very low. As long as they followed the same pattern as A Chinese Ghost Story, they would be able to follow the trend and make some money. At this time, everyone also habitually ignored the huge investment, but box office failure, Painted Skin. The brilliance created by A Chinese Ghost Story made the newly established Qinfei Media a hit. Lu Qin and Qinfei also gained more popularity because of this. Their blog fans both exceeded 50 million, and their status in the circle rose again. Among the artists in the entertainment industry, movie stars had the highest status. The truly top-notch big shots basically all had movie accolades to their name. Some had achieved box office success, while others had won awards at the International Film Festival. The only thing that Lu Qin and Qin Fei lacked was actually these movie awards and honors. If the two of them could be crowned Best Actor and Best Actress, then they could be considered to have reached the peak. Qin Fei's subversive role as the villain boss of A Chinese Ghost Story had also become a topic on Waves's blog. Many fans praised her breakthrough in acting, but at the same time, they complained that she was not the real female lead. At 8:15 p.m. on April 20th, Qin Fei suddenly updated her blog. In the blog post, she posted a picture of a blue sky and white clouds, and the sun shining brightly. In front of a cartoonish farm, there was a farmland filled with green plants, and there was an extremely cute puppy squatting beside it. If one only looked at this picture, which looked like an illustration from a children's book, everyone would definitely be confused and would not understand what it meant. At most, they could only judge that this was a screenshot of a web page game. Below the picture, Qin Fei added a line of text, warning someone, "If you steal my vegetables again, I'll let the dog bite you." Behind the exclamation mark, there was also a cute emoji representing anger. Qin Fei's blog had more than 50 million fans. These fans were not zombie fans that had been created by marketing. Although there were definitely a large number of silent accounts, the number of active users was still very considerable. This can be seen from the number of reposts and likes of her usual blog posts. Ordinary sharing of feelings or selfies can easily get millions of likes and hundreds of thousands of comments. Therefore, when her blog post was published, it immediately attracted the curiosity of countless fans. Who provoked my Fei? Destroy him. What kind of game is this? It looks very interesting. 555, my Fei has also degenerated into a blog marketing promotion. Someone. Who is that someone? Could it be my Qin? Ha ha ha, my Fei is so cute. It must be Lu Qin. Hurry up and let the dog bite him. Sister Fei, what game are you playing? I want to play too. I feel like I'm going to be fed dog food again. In just over an hour, this blog post had been reposted more than 50,000 times, and the number of comments was as high as 100,000. The current popularity of Qin Fei could be seen. Everyone knew that this blog post of Qin Fei should be a game promotion, but she was different from those stars who advertised on the blog every day. Except for a few brands that she endorsed, she basically did not do online marketing. The rarer something is, the greater its value. This inevitably made people curious. What kind of game could make Qin Fei make an exception? Moreover, this was obviously not a large-scale online game. It was just a small game. At 10:00, Qin Fei posted another blog post and took the initiative to solve the mystery. She said that she had recently been playing a small online farming game called Happy Farm. By registering with QQ, you can interact with your friends in the game. It was very interesting and fun. Finally, Qin Fei added a QQ number. This is someone's number. Everyone can add him, and then steal all the vegetables he grows together. After the exclamation mark, there was a sinister expression. This time, the fans immediately exploded. Someone was obviously Lu Qin. Lu Qin's personal QQ number was actually published by Qin Fei. Everyone didn't care whether it was game marketing or not. One after another, they added Lu Qin's QQ number. It was directly approved as soon as they added it. There was no need to apply for verification. There were even more fans who searched for Happy Farm on the search engine and found the Happy website at the first moment. Chapter 602. You have to compensate me. In Beijing Zicheng Yuan's home, Chen Fei, who was sitting in front of the computer, said to Lu Qin, "Hurry up." Lu Qin smiled and said, "What compensation? I just stole a few of your pumpkins." Chen Fei, glared at him angrily. "You still have the nerve to say that? You came up with such an idea to advertise your game. My reputation is completely ruined." Lu Qin laughed. "This is not an advertisement, right? Are you also fascinated?" Since playing the internal beta version of Happy Farm that day, Chen Fei suddenly became interested. When the Happy Farm was officially launched, she installed the app client on her mobile phone as soon as possible. Not only that, she also promoted it to her friends and pulled a group of people to join it. Chen Fei had been in the industry for more than 10 years. The people she usually came into contact with were basically people in the industry. Of course, most of her friends were also people in the industry. Everyone gave her face to download and install the app, but she basically did not have much time to play. However, Happy Farm was different from ordinary online games. It was a casual game. Some people played their mobile phones in their spare time at work. First, out of curiosity or something else, they logged into Happy Farm as a pastime. Then after playing, 8 or 9 out of 10 people played it. Of course, Chen Fei herself was no exception. As the first registered user of Happy Farm, she had been promoted to level 5. The number of farmland had doubled. When she had time, she would take out her mobile phone to sprinkle water to kill insects. Of course, there was also the fun of stealing vegetables. The 2 blog posts she had previously posted were the game marketing methods that Lu Qin came up with. With the help of their huge fan base, Happy Farm was quickly promoted. It was just that Chen Fei basically did not do online marketing in the past. This time, it was an exception for Lu Qin. The effect was absolutely good. Gao He, who was far away in Hangzhou, called Lu Qin. He was very excited, because since Chen Fei posted the second blog post, the number of visitors to HappyNet suddenly increased, at least hundreds of times more than before. This was the so-called fan effect. Popular celebrities like Lu Qin and Chen Fei had a high influence on the internet. If they wanted to recommend a product, they could often get a lot of attention in a short period of time. Gao He admired Lu Qin very much. Before that, Lu Qin asked him to increase the bandwidth of the website server and let the technical staff work overtime, so that HappyNet did not collapse under the impact of the sudden increase in IP visits. As for the number of downloads of Happy Farm, it had increased exponentially. The number of downloads in a minute was equivalent to the number of downloads in a day. It was unbelievable. Of course, this was only a temporary phenomenon brought about by the fan effect. Whether Happy Farm could succeed or not, the key still depended on the charm of the game itself, whether it could attract players, keep players, and make them willing to pay for props. In the lower right corner of the computer screen, 2 QQ numbers showed that they were in the login state. One of the icons was flashing wildly, showing that a large amount of information was being transmitted. This QQ number was the number published by Chen Fei on his blog. In order to promote Happy Farm, Lu Qin deliberately bought a pair of couple QQ numbers from QQ, mainly to face the public. There were no obstacles set, and anyone could add them as friends. Therefore, once the number was announced, it was normal to attract countless fans to add and greet them. Of course, Lu Qin did not have the time and energy to manage it himself. In the end, he had to throw it back to the company's public relations and marketing department. But tonight, he still took the time to reply to several fans in person. As for Chen Fei, he picked up the tablet and continued to browse the blog. The fans were enthusiastic. "Sister Fei, rest assured, we will definitely steal all of Lu Chen's dishes. I just downloaded and installed it. I'm still learning. What's your QQ number?" Please add me as a friend. 10,000-ton copper bowl. This game is very simple, very easy to learn, and the production is quite good. It's a bit interesting. I like to play small games the most. For casual games like Happy Farm, the learning index is the lowest. As long as one is not stupid, anyone can learn it within a few minutes, and there will be no obstacles. However, because of the lack of challenge in learning, players are easily tired and give up after a few rounds. It is very difficult to rely on the small game itself to make money. At most, they can make some advertising to achieve profit. Although Happy Farm belonged to the category of casual games, its level of exquisiteness and interactivity were incomparable to other games of the same kind, especially the latter, which had an addictive magic. After Chen Feier and Lu Chen's cooperation in marketing, Happy Farm became popular in a very short period of time. It first caused an impact in the two's fan circle, and then spread like a plague. Computers, tablets, mobile phones. More and more people installed the Happy Farm client, either through advertising in the media, seeing it on blog forums, or being recommended by relatives and friends. Happy Farm also relied on the powerful resources of QQ, making it easy for players to interact with others in the game, making stealing vegetables a craze. When A Chinese Ghost Story was taken off the shelves on May 1st, National Day, this casual game had already set off a craze for people to steal vegetables. The speed and influence of the game left everyone in the gaming world dumbfounded. There were also a lot of negative news, such as children secretly using mobile phones to steal vegetables during class, white-collar workers opening web pages to steal vegetables at work, and some people got up in the middle of the night to go online in order to steal and pick vegetables, which affected their rest. However, these negative news could not affect the spread of Happy Farm. The number of registered users soared to more than 50 million in more than half a month, of which more than half were active users. This figure was very scary, and the surge in users also brought rolling money to Happy Network and Happy Entertainment. Although the props sold in Happy Mall were very cheap, they couldn't support the huge number of users. Therefore, after experiencing the process of burning money for more than half a year, Happy Entertainment smoothly embarked on the principle of profitability, continued to recruit people to expand their strength, and moved towards a higher goal. Lu Qin gave the power to control and manage Happy Entertainment to Gao He and his wife, and led Chen Fei Media to start preparing for the third TV series. In addition, there was also the recording of the reality show, The Voice of China. Chapter 603. East Coast District, Huhai. It was already 3:00 in the morning when Anshin returned to her apartment. She opened the door carefully with the key. She didn't turn on the light after entering the apartment. She only used the light from her phone screen to light up the room. Then she tiptoed to her room. The 70-square-meter apartment was divided into 4 rooms. There were 7 people in total, including Anshin. She had been living with a friend for almost 2 years. Anshin was quite lucky. She came to Huhai alone 2 years ago and met this friend on the subway. She moved in the next day, which saved her a lot of money and a lot of trouble. Anshin, who was 23 years old, was a singer, a folk singer who took the lyrical route. She was currently singing in a bar in the old French concession of Shanghai. She could be considered as a member of the drifters. Those who lived in the capital were called drifters, and those who lived in Huhai were called drifters. Anshin couldn't survive in the capital, so she didn't have a good life in Huhai. Although many people appreciated her singing and voice, her ordinary appearance and body made it impossible for her to make a name for herself in this circle of talents. To put it bluntly, even if she wanted to sell herself, no one would pay for it. Therefore, other than a guaranteed salary, she usually didn't earn much in tips. In Shanghai, which was the most populated city in the world, she could barely survive. This was an era where appearance mattered a lot, and Anshin didn't belong to this era. "You're back," she had just put down her backpack when she heard a sleepy voice behind her. Anshin didn't turn around in surprise. She answered, "Yes, I woke you up. Go back to sleep." The other person nodded and didn't say anything else. Anshin moved more carefully. She took off her coat and shoes and crawled into bed. She had already washed up in the bar, so that she wouldn't disturb others in the apartment. There was only one bathroom in the apartment, and the living room was separated into two separate rooms. The soundproofing was very poor. Because of this, it was easy for neighbors to have conflicts. Anshin didn't like to argue with others, so she would rather trouble herself. She was very tired. The warm bed gave an excellent warmth. Usually, she would fall asleep quickly after closing her eyes, but for some reason, she was still awake tonight. It was the Labor Day holiday these few days. There were many tourists from other places, so the bar's business was particularly good. It was rare for her to go to a few more venues and earn an extra 1,000 or 2,000 yuan. However, he couldn't keep the money. His family had called him yesterday, so he definitely needed to send the money back today. She was the eldest in the family, and she had 2 younger brothers and sisters. The annual school fees were not a small expense. Her parents were not in good health, so they did not earn much and often had to take medicine. Anshin wondered if she should find another part-time job during the day. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to hold on any longer. As she thought about it, she felt drowsy and fell asleep unknowingly. She slept until the sky turned dark. Anaxan was woken up by a strange itch on the tip of her nose. Achoo! She sneezed fiercely and heard a giggle in her ears. "Little lazy pig, get up quickly." Anaxan ignored the man. She turned over and tried to go back to sleep, but a cold hand reached into her arms. "Aya, do you want to die?" This time, Anshin couldn't go back to sleep anymore. She sat up in embarrassment and prepared to fight back. The man who was messing with her was, of course, her hometown. The 2 of them were best friends, and they had a very good relationship. "Not a scaredy cat, it's already midnight. I brought you KFC. Are you touched?" She waved the plastic bag in her hand at Anshin. The white bag had the words, "Colonel of KFC," and "KFC" written in red on it. It was very eye-catching and very tempting. Anshin was shocked when she smelled the food. "Why are you so generous to buy KFC?" Her hometown friend worked as a salesperson in a shopping mall. His family situation was similar to hers. Usually, he was very thrifty like her. Under normal circumstances, he was reluctant to spend money at KFC. A hamburger that couldn't fill his stomach was more expensive than rice. Her hometown friend smiled and said, "It's someone else's treat, and I got you a share. Are you touched? Give yourself to me. As long as you like it." Anshin happily took the bag of food and winked at her friend. "I'm yours today." Her friend had goosebumps all over her body and said, "It's too numb. I don't have the luck to enjoy it." The 2 of them chatted and laughed, and even shared the chicken wings. Anshin sat on the bed until she was full and was satisfied. "You'll stay here with me. Don't you need to go to work in the afternoon?" Her hometown friend nodded and said, "I'll take the afternoon off. I'm so tired these few days." "Oh right." She took out her phone and fiddled with it for a while, then said, "I saw a singing talent show called The Voice of China online today. They said that they'll start auditions nationwide tomorrow. There's an audition venue in Shanghai. Do you want to go and try it out?" The Voice of China. Even Anshin had never heard of this name. There were so many talent shows these days, and there were so many different kinds of talent shows. She shook her head subconsciously. Anshin once had the dream of becoming a star, and had participated in talent shows before. However, she did not even make it to the official competition. That was because her appearance was too ordinary and did not meet the requirements of others. In the current talent shows, apart from those with strong backgrounds, most of the contestants were handsome men and beautiful women. At the very least, they had to be talented and able to compose songs. For a singer like her who only had singing skills without any distinguishing features, unless she was extremely lucky, she would not stand a chance at all. After being rejected a few times, Anshin was disheartened and buried her dream deep in her heart. "You really don't want to go?" Her hometown friend said regretfully, "I've always thought that you're better than many other celebrities. It'll be a pity if you don't try it out. I saw on the internet that the Voice of China has invited Lu Chen and Chen Fei as judges and mentors. There are also two mysterious heavyweights. Don't you admire Lu Chen a lot?" Lu Chen. Anshin was shocked. "Are you serious?" Among all the singers in the country, Anshin's favorite and idol was Lu Chen. She could basically sing all the songs composed by Lu Chen. Some of the folk songs that she covered were quite popular in the bars. She had always thought that Lu Chen was the most outstanding singer and composer in the country. If Lu Chen was the judge, why did she not know about this talent show? Her friend extended her phone to Anshin. "Take a look for yourself." Anshin could not help but widen her eyes. Her attention was immediately focused on the small phone screen. Chapter 604. No matter how ordinary a person is, they have their own dreams. Anshin's dream was to stand on a dazzling stage and sing for thousands of audiences. Ever since she embarked on the path of being a singer, this dream had always been in her heart. Sometimes it would surface, perhaps buried deep, but it had never really been extinguished. It was just that the ruthless reality had always been the crusher of dreams. Anshin was very ordinary. Her path as a singer staggered in the dark, unable to see any light ahead. Anshin liked and admired Lu Chen because Lu Chen used to be like her, a bar singer at the bottom of the society, but with his own efforts and talent, he stood out and eventually became a big star in the limelight. She hoped that one day she could be like Lu Chen, but she also knew very well that she did not have Lu Chen's talent. Nor did she have Lu Chen's looks. However, when she heard from her best friend that Lu Chen would be a judge for the Voice of China, the dream hidden deep in her heart suddenly surged, giving Anshin an indescribable desire. She should give it a try. What's the harm in giving it a try? Maybe this show would be different from others, maybe she could see Lu Chen in person. She bit her lip and carefully browsed the content of the web page that had just been opened on her phone. It was the promotional advertisement for the Voice of China. The Voice of China was co-produced by Zhejiang Satellite TV and Star Factory Media. The national audition was held from May 4th to 12th. The audition locations included Beijing, Huai, Hangzhou, Shaoqing, and Shanghai. There was no division. The singers who passed the audition would participate in the official mentor audition in Hangzhou on May 15th. Star Factory Media announced on its official website and Weibo that the 4 celebrity mentors of The Voice of China were confirmed to be Lu Chen and Chen Fei, while 2 other heavyweight mystery guests would be announced in the near future. Domestic variety show audiences were already used to this kind of method of whetting their appetite, but just the participation of Lu Chen and Chen Fei gave The Voice of China a very high starting point. At present, in the domestic pop music industry, this perfect couple was so popular that few big stars could compare with them. Last year, both of their new albums achieved great success, and Chen Fei's position as the queen of music was unshakable. Not only did they have a singing career, but they also expanded in the film and television industry. Their blog fans added up to more than 100 million, and they were in the limelight in the entertainment industry. Most importantly, Lu Chen had a good reputation in the industry as the golden touch. If he wanted to support someone, he could easily do so. There were already many examples to prove this. Just this mentor alone was enough to tempt countless singers. Anshin was no exception. What are you thinking about? Hurry up and sign up. Her best friend urged. It would be a pity to miss this opportunity. Anshin held her phone and nodded. She opened the registration bar with a trembling finger and filled in her registration information on the new page. Finally, she clicked confirm. China's Voice's preliminary audition supported both phone and online registration. Once the registration was successful, the officials would assign a contestant number and the time for the audition. So all an Aksayan had to do now was wait. You can definitely do it. Her best friend encouraged. I believe that Lu Chen is not the kind of person to judge a book by its cover. He will definitely like your singing. Anshin's eyes teared up, and she suddenly hugged her. Xiao Wen, thank you. She did not have many friends in this unfamiliar big city, and Xiao Wen was her best friend. When she was at her lowest point, Xiao Wen took her in and gave her a place to stay. Although it was small, it was warm. Xiao Wen was stunned for a moment, then hugged her back and said, What are you thanking me for? We're from the same hometown. I just hope that you can become famous, so I can bask in your glory. How about being your assistant? As she spoke, she began to laugh. What assistant? I'll at least be your manager. Anshin laughed as well. She wiped the tears from the corner of her eyes and said, If I become famous, I'll pay for your brother's wedding and wife. Anshin and Xiaowen were from the same place, but an Aksayan lived in a county city, while Xiaowen lived in a village. Xiaowen was also the eldest in the family, and had started working at a young age. According to her, she came out to earn money for her brother's wedding. With the customs of her hometown, it was impossible to get a wife without several 100,000. Both of them were in the same boat, and so they became good friends. Xiaowen smiled and said, Then it's a deal. She made it sound as if an Aksayan was really going to become famous soon. In fact, both of them knew very well that without a good background and outstanding looks, the chances of an Aksayan becoming a celebrity were really too low. Unless a miracle happened. However, if a person did not have a dream, what difference was there between them and a salted fish? That was the dream of two ordinary girls. Beep beep. Right then, Xiaowen's phone suddenly rang. She looked at it and was surprised. There's a message. There really was a message. It was an official reply from China's Voice. Anshin had passed the registration and received her contestant number, as well as the time and venue for the audition. Although she knew that online registration was a simple matter, such a quick and efficient reply still surprised an Aksayan. She could not help but look forward to China's Voice even more. Tomorrow at 2 p.m. at Victory Stadium. An Aksayan could not help but hold Xiaowen's hand. Xiaowen understood what she meant and thought for a moment before saying, I'll change shifts with my colleagues tomorrow and accompany you there. An Aksayan was extremely grateful, thank you. An Aksayan had participated in several talent shows in the past, and she had always gone alone. Logically speaking, there was no need to trouble others this time, but she did not know why, but she felt very nervous. Perhaps her fate would change because of this. Xiaowen rolled her eyes at her. What are you thanking me for? I'm your manager. Both of them laughed, and an Aksayan could not help but relax. The next afternoon, Xiaowen accompanied an Aksayan on the subway to Shanghai's Victory Stadium. To their surprise, the registration area was already packed with people. There were countless singers participating in the audition, and it was a lively scene everywhere. Many of them were carrying guitars. Not far away, a huge poster of China's Voice was hung on the outer wall of the stadium. A large hand holding a microphone was raised high, giving off a strong visual impact. An Aksayan stood in the bustling crowd. Her dream was about to become a reality. At that moment, she had no idea what the future held. Chapter 605. Chief Lu, you are so unkind. Beijing New Era Art Park, Qinfei Media Headquarters Art Director Office, a middle-aged man said to Lu Qin in a strong tone of dissatisfaction, "Such a good thing, why don't you cooperate with our Beijing television?" Although Lu Chen is the legal representative of Qinfei Media and owns 45% of the shares, his position in the company is the art director. The chairman and general manager of the company are held by Qinfei and Lu Shi, respectively. Due to the purchase of the house originally rented by Yu Jizhong Studio, Qinfei Media, which now occupies the entire building, has an operating area of 1,800 square meters, so Lu Chen has also changed to a more spacious and comfortable workspace. Lu Chen brought a cup of coffee that had just been mixed to the other party and said with a smile, "That program was made by a friend. She chose to cooperate with Zhidong Satellite TV, so I can't say no." When Lu Chen moved to the new workroom, Qinfei gave him a valuable coffee machine and drink combination, with coffee beans imported from the place of origin, so that he could make a cup of coffee to relax his mood after his busy work. Tian, of course, the person who can make Lu Chen mix coffee by himself will not be an ordinary person. The guest who complained to him was Chen Qi, the deputy director of Beijing Television. The two knew each other very early, and the relationship between them was also very good, so there was no problem in joking. Chen Qi picked up the coffee and took a sip, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Authentic. I didn't expect Chief Lu to be so skilled in making coffee. I admire you. Lu Chen said with a wry smile, "Director Chen, you'd better call me Xiao Lu." The deputy director of Beijing Television came to his office today and was also an uninvited guest. The two of them were talking about China's Voice, which was currently making a big splash in the audition work. "I've seen that girl Tian. When she saw me, she had to call me uncle." Chen Qi put down the coffee cup and said, "You must have a share in the media company she runs, right? It's only right for you to help yourself, but you can't let Zhidong Satellite TV station monopolize it." Currently, in the domestic television industry, China's The Voice was undoubtedly the most anticipated talent show. The reason was very simple. The judges and mentors for this newly launched singing talent show had already been selected to be Lu Qin, Qinfei and Liao Jia. There was still one more important person that had not been announced. But just these three alone were enough to cause a stir in the industry. Needless to say, Lu Qin and Qinfei were already very popular. One could just go to the Waves blog and see how popular they were. Their combined fans exceeded 100 million. As for Liao Jia, although this famous rock and roll veteran has not released a new album in recent years, his status in the circle has always been unshakable. Moreover, Liao Jia had never participated in such a talent show before. Not to mention the last heavyweight mentor who has not yet unveiled his mysterious veil, the combined weight of these three is enough to crush a large number of talent shows, and make the third season of Singing China, which will be produced and broadcast by Beijing Satellite TV station at the end of June, feel heavy pressure. Therefore, Chen Qi came over to denounce and let Zhidong Satellite TV station monopolize it. Lu Qin was really amused by the rascal of the deputy director. Director Chen, Tian is from Zhidong Satellite TV station, and the company is in Hangzhou. Is there any other choice if she doesn't cooperate with Zhidong Satellite TV station? Besides, you can't cooperate with Beijing TV. You already have Singing China. Beijing Television's Singing China, launched in 2015, has been successfully held for 2 seasons. Both seasons have achieved high ratings, and influential contestants such as Lu Qin and the Little Tigers have emerged. It is absolutely impossible for Beijing Television to let go of this variety show. Of course, Chen Qi knew very well that his real purpose was not to get involved in China Good Voice. Then forget about this, but you from the Star can't just leave us behind, can you? The old fox's tale has finally been revealed. The news that Lu Qin is going to shoot the last part of the Urban Trilogy, You from the Star, has long been released on his blog, but because there are too many people seeking cooperation, and because he is very busy with his work, he has not finalized a partner so far. The last, Full of Romance, was distributed to Zhejiang Satellite TV Station and Beijing Television Station, making the two companies make a lot of money. This time, of course, Beijing Television will not miss it. Relying on their proximity, they are very close to it. However, without signing a contract for one day, things will change. There are so many satellite TV stations in China, but as long as they have a little strength and ambition, who doesn't want to get the premiere rights of You from the Star? Unlike CCTV, which has a big business and doesn't have to worry about food and drink, the performance of local satellite TV stations has to rely on themselves. Lu Qin said with a smile, "Director Qin, I have always been very happy to cooperate with your Beijing TV. I don't think this time will be an exception." Despite holding the memory wealth of a world, Lu Qin has never thought of monopolizing all the benefits, because he deeply understands that a person who is reluctant to share even a little benefit is doomed to failure. Therefore, he has been very attentively weaving his own network and generously giving up part of the benefits, which has allowed his career to expand very smoothly and reduced a lot of trouble. There are a lot of controversies in the circle, especially for popular stars. It is not known how many pairs of eyes are staring at them. If they don't have the strength to deter the small fry, then maybe there will be a scandal when they go out for a meal. Lu Qin is developing in Beijing, and the headquarters of Qinfei Media is here. Beijing Television is also the local snake, so it is necessary to build a good relationship. In fact, even if Qin Chi did not come over, You from the Star would also premiere on Beijing TV. Of course, Beijing Television will definitely ask for more, but it can always be negotiated happily. That's good. With Lu Chen's promise, Qin Chi was finally relieved. He picked up the coffee again and tasted it happily, and couldn't help but feel very emotional in his heart. When Qin Chi first met Lu Qin was just a contestant in a talent show on Beijing Television. He was an existence that Lu Qin needed to look up to. But now, in less than 2 years, Lu Qin is fully qualified to be on an equal footing with him. Not to mention anything else, just Lu Chen's current net worth must be calculated in hundreds of millions. In the entire entertainment industry, who can rise and develop as fast as Lu Qin? Young people nowadays are really amazing. Lu Qin didn't know what the deputy director of Beijing Television was thinking. After seeing Qin Chi off, he asked his assistant to book a ticket to Hangzhou for him. Chen Fei has been in Hangzhou for 2 days. The two will participate in the official recording of The Voice of China on the 15th. Chapter 606. On the 12th of May, Lu Qin flew to Hangzhou. The 12th was also the last day of China's Voice's national auditions. All the singers who passed the auditions would participate in the blind auditions in Hangzhou in batches. In the end, 4 teams with a total of 56 contestants would be selected to enter the elimination round. Tian Star Factory had been preparing for such a long time and had long held back their energy. Now that they had finally unleashed their accumulated power, the 9-day national auditions were spectacular and had a great impact. Star Factory Media was considered to have made a name for themselves and had truly stepped into the circle of variety shows. When Lu Qin saw Tian again, the helmsman of Star Factory Media was simply in high spirits. There was a strong self-confidence inside and outside, and she had the temperament and demeanor of a strong woman in the business world. When she saw Lu Qin, she complained, "You didn't contact me the last time you came to Hangzhou. Do you still treat me as a friend?" The last time Lu Qin came to Hangzhou was because of Happy's online incident. On one hand, he was too busy with work, and on the other hand, he did not look for Tian to avoid trouble. He did not expect it to become a crime. Lu Qin could only admit his mistake. "All right, I'll contact you first the next time I come to Hangzhou." "That's fine, right?" That's more like it. Tian hugged Chen Fei's arm and said, I don't care about other places. Since you're in Hangzhou, I have the obligation to help Sister Fei, or look after you. There are so many beauties in Hangzhou. I'll make sure you don't make any mistakes. Chen Fei pursed her lips and smiled. Then I'll leave this glorious task to you. After the joke, Tian got down to business. When will Shifang come over? In a few days, China's Voice would officially start recording. 3 of the 4 mentors had already been revealed. Lu Chen and Chen Fei arrived in Hangzhou first. Liao Jia would rush over the next day, but Shifang's schedule was still undecided. The Heavenly Queen of Xiangjiang had a full schedule. Although she had already confirmed her participation in China's Voice and signed a contract with the company, Tian could not rest easy without seeing her in person. Shifang could be considered the trump card of China's Voice that had yet to be revealed. This was the first time Tian was involved in such a big project, so it was inevitable that she would be a little worried about the gains and losses. She was always worried that something might happen. This was one of the reasons why this trump card had not been revealed until now. Lu Chen understood. Then I'll make a call and ask. He took out his phone and dialed Shifang's private number. The call was quickly connected. After Lu Chen chatted with the other side for a while, he said, Sister Fang's flight is in the afternoon the day after tomorrow. She will arrive at the airport around 5 o'clock. That's great. Tian almost jumped up and said excitedly, I'm going to pick him up. She could be considered a hardcore fan of Shifang. She had liked the Heavenly Queen of the music industry since she was in junior high school. She still had many of Shifang's albums at home. Lu Chen smiled and said, let's go together. Sister Fang is very easygoing. At night, Lu Chen and Chen Fei stayed at Tian's house as usual. Tian's house was very big, with 4 or 5 rooms. She was also single, so if Chen Fei came to Hangzhou, unless there were other arrangements, he would stay at her house instead of a hotel. However, Lu Chen still felt that it was a little inconvenient. He said to Chen Fei, why don't we buy a house here? Chen Fei nodded and said, okay. Lu Chen suddenly became interested. Then we'll go look at a house in 2 days. Chen Fei smiled and said, there's no need to be so anxious, right? Lu Chen hugged her, looked up at the ceiling and said, you don't know this, but when I was studying in Hangzhou, I wanted to buy a house here. In the end, I've fulfilled my wish now. What he didn't say was that he wanted to buy a house in order to have a warm home with his girlfriend. After graduation, he wanted to stay in Hangzhou to develop his career. However, the accident at home changed everything. Chen Fei, who was in Lu Chen's arms, felt his mood at this time and said, then let's wait for 2 days. For ordinary people, buying a house in a big city like Hangzhou might not be enough even if they worked hard for a lifetime. But for her and Lu Chen, it was a very simple thing. As long as Lu Chen was happy. The next night, Lu Chen picked up Liao Jia, who had returned from Europe, at the Hangzhou International Airport. Liao Jia had been in Europe for some time. He couldn't bear the loneliness and liked to travel around. He often went to a city to live for a period of time, and then went to other places. It was precisely because of this unwillingness to be bound that he had yet to find his true home. This time, if he had not agreed to Lu Chen's invitation, he would not have been willing to come back from France. After settling down this rock star, on the evening of the 14th, Lu Chen, Chen Fei, and Tian also welcomed Shifang at the Hangzhou International Airport. Shifang's visit was very low-key this time. There was no news from Xiangjiang at all. Only a few friends in the circle knew that she would come to China to participate in the Voice of China. She only had 2 assistants with her. Sister Fang. When they saw Shifang wearing a hat and sunglasses in the VIP passage of the airport, Lu Chen was the first to go up and greet her. Big smile immediately appeared on Shifang's face, and she took the initiative to open her arms and hug Lu Chen. The Xiangjiang Heavenly Queen said with a smile, "Chen Zai, long time no see." Her complexion looked very good. Chen Fei also came up to greet Sister Fang. "Hello, Fei Shifang had met Chen Fei at the Xiangjiang premiere of a Chinese ghost story, so she naturally remembered her. Following that, Lu Chen introduced Tian Tian to Shifang. Shifang was a little surprised. "Miss Tian Tian is so young." "That's really surprising." In Xiangjiang, there had never been a beautiful girl in her 20s who could manage an entertainment media company. Shifang could not help but look up to Tian Tian. In front of this Xiangjiang Heavenly Queen, Tian Tian was already a little fan, holding her hand excitedly. Shifang was surprised and a little amused. She then felt that Tian Tian was very cute. She had an easygoing personality and did not put on any airs of a heavenly queen, so she got along well with Tian Tian. That night, Tian Tian hosted a banquet at Hangzhou's Shangri-La Hotel to entertain Shifang, who came from afar. Liao Jia attended at the same time. With that, the four main judges of The Voice of China were all gathered together. How could they not take a photo at such an important moment? Tian Tian took a photo with her phone and immediately posted it on The Voice of China's official Weibo. The last mystery guest of The Voice of China was thus revealed. As expected, this special photo caused a huge reaction on Waves's blog. Chapter 607. China's Voice's official Weibo account on Waves's blog had only been online for a short period of time, but the number of fans grew at a rapid pace. Especially after it was announced that Lu Chen and Chen Fei would be the judges and mentors of the reality talent show, the attention on the show increased exponentially. Countless fans of Lu Chen and Chen Fei were paying attention to China's Voice. That was because for everyone, the appearance of this singing couple at the mentors' table at the same time was undoubtedly something worth watching. Of course, the attention of China's Voice was not limited to just the two's fans. Liao Jia's participation also increased the show's popularity, especially for those who liked rock music. Following the start of China's Weibo national auditions, the show attracted a lot of attention. However, the officials seemed to think that it was not enough, as they deliberately left the last suspense until the end of the auditions. Every day, there would be people discussing and guessing in the comments section of China's official Weibo account and the official Tieba, guessing who the final mentor would be. The list ranged from domestic to Hong Kong and even overseas. Now, the mystery was finally revealed. Tian Tian's photography skills were very average, and her camera tool was a mobile phone. However, the photo she took tonight was not about technique or quality. The key was the main character in the photo. In the luxurious private room of Shangri-La Hotel, four superstar mentors sat around the table. The first one on the left was Liao Jia, the last king of the era of national rock. With long hair and a cowboy shirt, he always had an unruly look. Next to Liao Jia was Lu Chen. He was tall, handsome, and young. His casual attire made him look elegant, and the faint smile on his face made him look like a friendly boy next door. On the left of Lu Chen was Chen Fei. Her long dress with simple makeup did not change her beauty, and her smile was charming. As for the last person, who was sitting on the far right, it was a beautiful woman wearing a burgundy dress. Her hair was tied up in a bun, and her face was slightly thin, giving off a delicate feeling. Everyone who saw this photo, recognized her at a glance. Shifang, the heavenly queen of Shangjiang's music industry, Shifang. In the 1990s, Shifang was a real superstar in the music industry that swept across both sides of the Taiwan Strait. Her records repeatedly created sales records and had countless fans in the mainland. Her works deeply influenced a generation of young people. Someone once calculated that if Shifang's album included pirated copies, the total sales volume in the mainland would definitely exceed 100 million. After entering the new era, her influence did not decline much. Many of her films and TV works were broadcast in China, and she became the heavenly queen of film, TV, and song in the hearts of her fans. In 2003, she held a special concert at the Beijing Workers' Stadium. 70,000 tickets were sold out, and the price was even inflated by scalpers to several times the original price. However, 10 years ago, Shifang temporarily retired from the entertainment industry due to health reasons. After about 5 or 6 years of silence, she lost a lot of her popularity, but the real fans were still looking forward to her comeback. There were a lot of stars in the Xinjiang entertainment circle, and there were many talented people. However, in terms of influence and popularity in the mainland, no man could compare to Qin Gangxing, and no woman could compare to Shifang. Therefore, when everyone saw Shifang appear in the country and chat happily with Lu Qin and the others, they were very surprised, especially those who liked Shifang. Oh my God, it's actually Shifang. Am I seeing things? I'm still in shock. When did Shifang make a comeback? I didn't even know about it. Shifang's fans were passing by. Their favorite song is Romantic Night. They will never forget it. Romantic Night +1. Rose Tulip is also very good. I always sing these two songs when I go to KTV. China's voice is really amazing. They actually managed to invite Shifang. Seeing Sister Fang again, I feel like crying. Tell me, Lu Qin, Chen Fei, Liao Jia, and Shifang. What's the weight of these four combined? Super heavyweight. It was indeed a super heavyweight. There were many talent shows in the country, and there was no lack of high-end productions. However, when it came to singing reality shows, there were not many that could compare to China's Voice, which had just revealed its trump card. Lu Qin, Chen Fei, Liao Jia, and Shifang. Any one of them was enough to hold the fort. Even if it was Lu Qin, who had debuted the shortest and youngest, in terms of popularity and strength in the Chinese pop music industry, how many could compare to him? It would not be an exaggeration to say that such a lineup was extravagant. Tian's photo really made a killing. Within a short hour after it was posted, the number of forwards easily exceeded 100,000. Even the number of followers on the official Weibo account skyrocketed. That was because many of Shifang's fans had rushed over after hearing the news. As for the comments below, it was even more lively. The fans of the four mentors were arguing like a pot of porridge. Not only the fans, but many people in the industry also joined in the fun, to ride on the popularity. Not only did they repost the photo, but they also expressed their amazement, admiration, and other emotions. As a result, the keywords Shifang and China's Voice both made it to the top trending words on the homepage of Waves' blog. The happiest ones were undoubtedly the contestants who had passed the audition for China's Voice. The more famous and popular the program was, the more beneficial it was for them. Even if they could not win the final championship, it was worth it to be able to appear on stage in the program. In past talent shows, there was no lack of examples of losing contestants becoming more popular than the champions. Although it was expected, the popularity of the official Weibo account still made Tian, the initiator, dumbfounded. She did not let it get to her head, and quickly made a call to the company to announce the rules of China's Voice. This was called striking while the iron was hot. The four mentors had all been revealed, and the last trump card was revealed. There was no need to continue covering up the veil on China's Voice. The rules of the show were also one of the highlights of China's Voice. It was mainly divided into 4 stages, namely the blind selection of mentors, the selection of mentors, the battle of mentors, and the annual ceremony. Today's talent shows had long been overdone by the major television stations. There was a serious problem of homogeneity and audience fatigue. Apart from a few of the major stations' ace programs, the ratings were not optimistic. If a new talent show wanted to win the market, it had to take the path of differentiation. Otherwise, it would be difficult for it to survive. China's Voice, which brought out the lineup of superstar mentors, was obviously not satisfied with superficial attention. They were more concerned with pursuing the essence of the show. Other than the lineup of mentors and the rules of the show, China's Voice also revealed another trump card. That was the winner's reward for the contestants. Chapter 608. All the major television stations were passionate about creating reality shows. They were competing for viewership ratings and earning advertising fees. For those who participated in reality shows, it was a competition of strength and luck, earning popularity and attention. Of course, there was also the reward for the winner. There could be more than one winner, but there was usually only one champion. As for the richness of the reward, different television stations had different rules. Some gave the contestants a chance to sign a contract and package a promise, while others gave cash and material rewards. Television stations like Shonan TV, Beijing Television, Huhai Satellite TV, and so on were rich and generous in their rewards. That was why they were able to attract many outstanding contestants. China's Voice was different from most similar talent shows. At the beginning of the promotion, they did not come up with the rules and reward method of the program. Instead, they focused on the mentors and relied on Lu Qin and Qin Fei to gain enough popularity. Now that they only revealed their trump card after the audition, it gave off a very different feeling to the audience. In these two aspects, the Voice of China had full confidence in their ability to do so. The rules of the show were novel enough, taking the route of differentiation. The rewards for the contestants were thoughtful and practical. All the contestants who passed the audition would receive a mysterious gift package provided by the sponsors, which would reimburse their travel and accommodation expenses to Hangzhou, as well as food and beverage expenses, so that those who came from afar wouldn't have to worry about the cost of living. Once they passed the blind selection by the mentors and became an official contestant, they would be able to collect their appearance fee. The appearance fee was calculated according to the latter. The more appearances they had, the higher the reward. Even if they did not become the final champion, they would still be able to earn quite a lot. The top 10 contestants would have their accumulated reward doubled, while the top 5 would have it quadrupled. That was to say, as long as they made it into the top 10, if their original appearance fee was 10,000 renminbi, they would have an additional 20,000 renminbi, for a total of 30,000 renminbi. The top 5 would receive 50,000 renminbi, and that did not include the subsequent appearance bonuses. The highest reward naturally belonged to the champion. The champion of the first season of China's Voice would receive 500,000 renminbi after tax and the right to sign a contract with Qin Fei Media. The most tempting part was that as long as they signed a contract with Qin Fei Media, Lu Qin would personally create an album for them. That was a reward exclusive to the champion. Of course, the champion could also choose not to sign with Qin Fei Media. That would be equivalent to giving up the opportunity. There were many talent shows in the country, especially the singing category. Because the organizers had a cooperative relationship with the entertainment media or management companies, once a contestant obtained a high ranking, they had to sign a contract with the other party. Otherwise, they would be directly eliminated in the next round, or they might not even be qualified to appear again and be replaced by someone else. This was the unspoken rule of talent shows. Singers were often in a very passive and weak position during the process. They clearly knew that signing the contract was very unfair to them, but in order to continue appearing, they could only choose to compromise. It was precisely because of this unspoken rule that some artists who came out of talent shows fell out with the companies they signed with after they became famous and popular, causing an uproar. Signing a contract with a company wasn't completely unreasonable. Naturally, they had to earn back the manpower and resources invested in the show. If they didn't sign a good seedling early on and the contestant became famous, they would sign with another company. Wouldn't it be like drawing water with a sieve? Who would want to do that? Chinfei Media was willing to do it. Chinfei Media did not force a contract and was only willing to sign a contract with the champion. If the champion was not willing, they could still reject it. There was no rush to sign a contract before the recording, and the contestant was completely free. The reason why Chinfei Media could break the unspoken rule was that Chinfei Media did not participate in the recording and broadcasting of the show. It was only in name, and the real producer was Star Factory Media. Star Factory Media also relied on selling program content to television stations to achieve profits, so there was no need for them to sign artists. On the other hand, it was probably the contestants who requested to sign with Chinfei Media. That was because Chinfei Media was a company jointly founded by Lu Chen and Chinfei. The price of an album tailored for the signed artist would definitely far exceed the cash reward of hundreds of thousands. It was an opportunity that new singers dreamed of. There was no need to say much about the outcome. Anyone who was not stupid would know how to choose. Furthermore, China's Voice's generosity in rewarding the contestants was truly admirable. At least for those singers who passed the audition, after seeing the reward rules of China's Voice, no one would say that they were dissatisfied. At most, they would only regret that the right to sign a contract was only limited to the champion. China's Voice's official Weibo account posted a series of posts, and the welcoming banquet had also ended. Tian said to Shi Fang, "Sister Fang, this is the hotel I booked for you. Do you want me to bring you up now?" Shangri-La Hotel was a world-renowned luxury 5-star branded hotel. It had branches in Beijing, Shanghai, Shangjiang, Baodao, Hangzhou, and other major cities. It was one of the designated hotels for many celebrities. China's Voice's recording time was not short. The rooms that Shi Fang and the others were staying in had been booked long ago. Tian thought that Shi Fang must be tired after flying all the way from Shangjiang and needed to rest early. However, to her surprise, Shi Fang replied with a smile, "There's no rush. I'm not tired yet. I've been to Hangzhou more than 10 years ago. Other than Westlake, I've pretty much forgotten everything else." Tian's eyes curved. "Then I can be your tour guide and accompany you to have a good time here." Liao Jia scratched his head and said, "It's still early. If everyone is free, I have a friend who owns a decent bar here. Let's go over and have a chat." Tian was surprised. "Brother Liao Jia, you have a friend who owns a bar. Where is he?" Liao Jia explained, "On Nanshan Road. He used to play rock and roll. His wife is from Hangzhou." Lu Chen and Chinfei looked at each other. Lu Chen asked Shi Fang, "Sister Fang, do you think it's a good idea?" Shi Fang smiled and said, "Of course it's a good idea. I'm free tonight anyway. Let's go to Mr. Liao's friend's bar and see what's the difference between Hangzhou's and Shangjiang's bars." Liao Jia clapped his hands. "Great. I'll call Little Six now and book a place first." He immediately took out his cell phone and made a call. The person on the other end of the line was very excited when he received Liao Jia's call. His voice was so loud that everyone in the room could hear him clearly. When he found out that Liao Jia was going to bring a friend over, he was extremely welcoming and kept saying that he would treat them all. As for the place, it was definitely available. Even if it wasn't, it had to be available. Liao Jia ended the call in a few words, then waved his hand and said, "Let's go." Chapter 609. Lu Min gripped his phone, his face full of excitement. His wife, who was checking the accounts behind the counter, asked, "Is brother Liao Jia coming over?" She had overheard the conversation when Lu Min was on the phone, but she couldn't hear it clearly. Lu Min nodded and said, "Yes, brother Liao Jia is bringing his friends over to have some fun. Immediately notify our regular customers in the QQ group and tell them to come and support us." His wife quickly picked up the phone on the table and quickly sent a message. Lu Min clenched his fist and yelled for the waiters to go around the bar, arrange the tables and chairs neatly, and get ready to welcome the guests at the door. It was still early and the real nightlife hadn't started yet, so there were only a few customers in the bar. They were all regulars, so when they saw Lu Min ordering the waiters around, they couldn't help but ask curiously, "What's going on?" Lu Min obviously wouldn't hide it. "Good news, brother Liao Jia is coming over to have some fun. F***ck. The customer was shocked. "Liao Jia? It's really Liao Jia?" Lu Min laughed. "Of course it's true, what good would I get from lying to you? It's really brother Liao Jia." Lu Min was from the northeast, and had entered Beijing in the 90s. He used to be a Beijing drifter, and by chance, he joined Liao Jia's band as a bass player, and built a good relationship with the big shot in the rock and roll industry. After the band disbanded, Lu Min went to Huhai, met his current wife, and finally settled in Hangzhou. Because his wife was from Hangzhou. To make a living, Lu Min opened a bar on Nanshan Road. Relying on the connections he had accumulated in the industry, and his identity as a former member of a famous rock and roll band, he was able to keep his business going. Although the number and scale of bars in Hangzhou couldn't be compared with those in Beijing and Shanghai, the competition was still very fierce. Especially in recent years, a lot of new nightclubs had opened, which attracted a large number of customers. As a result, Lu Min's bar, which focused on nostalgia, was in a bad situation. The skyrocketing rent and salaries put a heavy burden on Lu Min. His bar didn't cost much per person. Customers could sit for half a day after ordering a beer, but even so, there weren't many customers at night. Originally, Lu Min was thinking of just selling the bar. He could still become a bass teacher and not worry about not having enough to eat. But after so many years of running the bar, he really had feelings for it. He really couldn't bear to part with it. Just now, Liao Jia suddenly called Lu Min and said that he would come to the bar to play. Lu Min was really excited. On one hand, he hadn't seen Liao Jia for several years. On the other hand, Liao Jia's presence was undoubtedly a great boost to his bar's business. When the customers heard that Liao Jia was really coming, they became excited. After confirming that Lu Min was not lying, they all called their friends. "Hey, old Hu, where are you? Come to the Black 6 bar on Nanshan Road. What are you doing here? Liao Jia is coming. Brother Chen, I'm at the Black 6 bar. The boss just said that your favorite idol, Liao Jia, is coming. Faster, faster. There's still a position. I'll make a reservation for you first." Word spread quickly. In this day and age, it was very easy to spread information. Coupled with the fact that Lu Min's wife had sent a message to the Black 6 bar's customer group, the bar was soon flooded with customers. The originally empty bar was filled with customers in just a few minutes. Most of the Black 6 bar's customers were in their 30s or 40s. Most of them were married and had their own careers. They didn't come to the bar to pursue romantic encounters, but to listen to folk, jazz, and light rock songs to relax. To them, rock star Liao Jia was undoubtedly a true idol. So, after hearing the news, anyone who could spare the time rushed to the bar as soon as possible, afraid that they would miss this opportunity. Black 6 bar had never been so crowded since its opening. The owner's wife was shocked. She pulled her husband and asked worriedly in a low voice, "Will Liao Jia really come?" If Liao Jia didn't come, then all the customers would be completely offended. No one liked to be fooled, right? In the end, the Black Six bar would have to close its doors. Ryu Min said confidently, "Who do you think Liao Jia is? He's a man of his word. Why would he lie to me? Don't worry and wait. Hurry up and help greet the customers." Even though he said that, Ryu Min wasn't very confident. Seeing that the bar was almost full, he hurriedly ran to the door and waited with the waiter outside. Time ticked by. It was already past 9, but Ryu Min still didn't see the person he was hoping for. He couldn't help but feel anxious. Ryu Min squeezed his phone so hard that his palms were sweating. He hesitated to call Liao Jia. At that moment, 2 black Mercedes-Benzes drove in one after another and stopped on the sidewalk in front of the bar. The back door of the car in front opened and a rough-looking, long-haired, middle-aged man got out. Ryu Min's eyes were already fixed on the Mercedes-Benz. He was overjoyed when he saw the middle-aged man. Liao Jia. It was Liao Jia, the person he had been waiting for. Hearing the greeting, Liao Jia turned his head and smiled. Lil Six, it wasn't easy to find this place. It wasn't his first time in Hangzhou, but it was his first time at Black Six Bar. He had heard about Ryu Min from a friend some time ago, so he decided to drop by and support this friend of his. Liao Jia was a nostalgic person. He was very kind to his friends and had a good reputation in the circle. Ryu Min took 2 steps forward and hugged Liao Jia excitedly. Liao Jia, thinking of the past, the man's eyes became a little moist. Liao Jia patted Ryu Min on the shoulder and said, "Long time no see. Let's have a good chat tonight." "Oh, right." He turned around with Ryu Min in his arms. "I brought a few friends with me." Ryu Min immediately said, "Welcome, welcome. Liao Jia, your friends are my friends." As for tonight's drinks, halfway through his sentence, he froze. At that moment, Ryu Min saw 2 people getting out of the Mercedes-Benzes. Lu Chen, Chen Fei, and one of them looked like Shifang. That's right, it was the queen of Xiangjiang, Shifang. Ryu Min felt like a pie had fallen from the sky. He was dizzy. Chapter 610. For Lu Min, the fact that Liao Jia could come to his bar tonight was already a great blessing. Even if Liao Jia only stayed for half an hour to have a drink, it would still be a great boost to the bar's business. At the very least, Black Six signboard would be made known, the so-called celebrity effect. However, he never expected that Liao Jia would bring such amazing friends with him. Lu Chen, the most outstanding composer in the country's pop music scene, the pioneer of campus folk songs. To put it bluntly, the number of people in his bar who liked Lu Chen was definitely more than the number of people who liked Liao Jia. Chen Fei, and Shifang, the 2 heavenly queens. Such a lineup of friends was too powerful. Lu Min could imagine the commotion that night at Black Six. If he hung a photo of them on his wall, he would not have to worry about business for a long time. Liao Jia squeezed his shoulder hard and smiled. "What's wrong?" Lu Min seemed to wake up from a dream and stammered, "Liao. Brother Liao. Why? Why are they?" Liao Jia smiled, "We're all friends. Have you heard of China's Voice? We're the judges and happen to be together tonight, so we came over to have some fun. Are we welcome? Are we welcome?" "They're absolutely welcome." Lu Min was startled. "Brother Liao, you're my real brother." Liao Jia laughed heartily, then introduced Lu Chen, Chen Fei, and Shifang to Lu Min. Ryu Min hurriedly expressed his respect for him. If he was like that, the 2 waiters at the door were completely dumbfounded, unable to believe their eyes. Wasn't their boss a little too famous? When Liao Jia, Lu Qin, and the other two entered the bar, the customers' reactions were no better than the waiters. The entire place fell silent. Following that, it was unknown who started it, but warm applause rang out like a tidal wave. Everyone used this method to express their sincere welcome to the few heavenly queens who had come. Liao Jia, Lu Chen, Chen Fei, Shi Fang. The names of the four people were called one after another. Many customers, who had just woken up from a dream, took out their phones to take photos and videos, and immediately uploaded them to their blogs or personal spaces. Lu Min wasn't stupid. He quickly pulled the waiter over and ordered, "Close the shop and don't let anyone in." If the door wasn't sealed, the people running in would probably crush Black Six. Under Ryu Min's guidance, the four of them sat down at their reserved seats. At this time, a singer was playing and singing on the stage in the middle of the bar. When he saw Lu Qin and the others, he was so excited that he sang off-key and his face turned red. Two waiters immediately served the drinks and snacks to them. After Shi Fang sat down, she elegantly looked around and smiled. "The environment here is pretty good." Black Six decorations were unique, and the atmosphere was good. In fact, it was more romantic when there were fewer people, so it kept a group of old customers. Otherwise, it would have closed long ago. At night, there were too many people, and there were no empty seats. If Ryu Min hadn't arranged for a few waiters to work as security, and if Black Six customers weren't mature and rational, a group of people would have surrounded Lu Qin and the others to ask for autographs and photos. Even so, they were still the center of attention, and a lot of photos were posted online. After tonight, countless people would know the name of Black Six. At least Ryu Min's bar would be famous in Hangzhou, and they wouldn't have to worry about business anymore. Liao Jia opened a bottle of black beer and took a sip. He smiled. "I'm not afraid of being laughed at, but it's my first time here too. Liao Jia used to be a member of my band. His name is Ryu Min. His bass skills are at least in the top 10 in the country." Ryu Min, who was sitting beside him, was extremely embarrassed. "I can't do it anymore. I might not even be in the top 1,000. Ryu Min's bass skills were well known in the circle, otherwise he wouldn't have been qualified to be a member of Liao Jia's band. But after opening the bar, he had less and less time to practice. At most, he could only perform on stage by himself, so his level naturally dropped a lot. Liao Jia was loyal to his friends. When the band broke up, he didn't mistreat them. Later, when the band was reorganized, he invited Ryu Min again, but Ryu Min had chosen to stay in Hangzhou. Speaking of the past, Ryu Min naturally had a different feeling in his heart, but he didn't regret it. Liao Jia understood. It's all for a living. After finishing a bottle of black beer, Liao Jia seemed to have opened the source of his memories, and told the customers about his rock days. When it came to rock, Lu Qin could talk about it, because he had learned about this period of history. Chen Fei, was no stranger either. When she debuted, it was the last days of rock. Interestingly, Shi Fang was also quite familiar with rock, and she had a good relationship with several older rock singers in Xiangjiang, such as Lin Guoqing and Zhang Jiadong. In 1992, I saw the concert of the Black Ravens at the Kowloon Stadium, and I still haven't forgotten it. The Black Ravens was a national rock band active in the late 1980s and early 1990s. They had a total of 3 albums, with a total sales of more than 20 million, and were regarded as the mainstay of the national rock. In September 1993, Gao Yi, the lead singer and soul of the Black Ravens, accidentally fell off the stage during a concert rehearsal, resulting in a serious skull injury, and eventually died in Chaoyang People's Hospital at the age of 32. Gao Yi's unexpected death was undoubtedly a heavy blow to the national rock. The Black Ravens, which had always been a leading role, never recovered and disbanded 2 years later, leaving endless sorrow to the fans of the national rock. In 1992, the Black Ravens concert in Jiulong, Xiangjiang, was also their last concert, which caused a great sensation in Xiangjiang at that time. And Gao Yi was Liao Jia's guide on the road of rock and roll, his eternal spiritual mentor. Liao Jia said with a wry smile, "If Brother Gao were still alive, he would definitely scold me. What the hell am I singing now?" The national rock declined at the end of the 1990s. Although it did not completely disappear, it was replaced by light rock and roll. Liao Jia was regarded as the last glory of the national rock, but he still couldn't resist the tide and changed his singing style. In fact, some people said that Gao Yi's death in 1993 was not a bad thing for him, because he didn't have to painfully see the decline of the national rock. This topic was very heavy. Lu Chen said, "I believe that rock and roll will never die, and the era of rock and roll will come." Liao Jia said with flagging interest, "Maybe." Lu Min quickly said, "Brother Liao, shall we go up together and cooperate again?" With several gods present, the resident singers of the Black Six did not dare to go on stage and make a fool of themselves. Liao Jia put the empty bottle on the table heavily and said, "Okay." He pointed to Lu Chen and said, "You, too." Chapter 6:11. Were they going to play for real? Seeing Liao Jia, Lu Chen, and Lu Min on stage, the customers in the bar couldn't help but get excited. Everyone sat there eagerly. Other than being able to see their idols, they also wanted to hear the live performance. It would definitely be a memory that would last for a lifetime. It was just that Liao Jia, Lu Chen, and the others had been drinking and chatting all this time, and they hadn't seen any movement for a long time. It was inevitable that they would be disappointed and look forward to it. Now, they had finally waited until the clouds dispersed to see the moon. Someone took the lead to clap and whistle. Soon after, there was a round of applause, and some even shouted Liao Jia's name. "Thank you." Liao Jia had always been a forthright person. Since he was here to support his younger brother, he wouldn't be shy. He directly borrowed a guitar and said into the microphone, "I'm very happy to come to Black Six with my friends tonight. Thank you all very much for your enthusiasm, so I'll give a shout here." Great! Following the enthusiastic cheers, the atmosphere was like a powder keg that had been ignited, and instantly exploded. Liao Jia was already used to this kind of scene. He raised his hand to signal everyone to quiet down, then pointed behind him and said, "First, let me introduce my band member, the bass player, Lu Min." Everyone laughed, and the atmosphere was filled with joy. Then, there was a round of enthusiastic applause. Lu Min cupped his fists in thanks. "My humble self." Liao Jia then pointed to Lu Chen. "This is the guitarist, what's his name again?" Everyone laughed. "Lu Chen." Liao Jia slapped his head and said, "Oh right, his name is Lu Chen, he's a very good young man. If he doesn't play well, everyone should give him some face and encourage him." The laughter became even louder, and even Chen Feier and Shifang couldn't help but laugh. In the domestic pop music scene, Lu Chen's guitar skills were recognized as outstanding. Of course, Liao Jia had every right to make fun of Lu Chen. He had long since mastered the guitar. Lu Chen also laughed. He moved closer to the microphone and said, "Thank you, everyone." Then, Liao Jia introduced the keyboardist and drummer. This time, he really didn't know who they were, but Lu Min reminded him. 5 people, a standard rock band. Liao Jia patted the guitar in his arms and said, "I haven't sung for a while. It's rare to have so many good friends here. I'll sing Old Guy first tonight." Old Guy was one of Liao Jia's rock classics. This song was very popular in the 1990s and was regarded as the most zeitgeist work of Liao Jia and his Black Memory Band. It was deep, heavy, and full of vicissitudes. The melody was soul-stirring, and the lyrics had a strong aura that only belonged to that era. Liao Jia's fans were all familiar with the song Old Guy. Of course, everyone clapped and cheered with all their might. Liao Jia turned his head and looked at Lu Qin. Lu Qin gave him an okay look. He was also familiar with this song. Liao Jia was relieved. Coming here tonight, including singing on stage, was an impromptu idea. There was no prior rehearsal. If Lu Qin did not know how to play, it would be embarrassing. Moreover, Black 6 Bar had the computer score for Old Guy, so there would be no problem. He took a deep breath and arched his body as if he was accumulating strength. Then, his right hand swept across the guitar strings. The sonorous and powerful prelude immediately sounded, shocking everyone's eardrums. Old Guy, the next moment, Liao Jia's voice, full of vicissitudes, sounded along with the rhythm of the music. He had sung this song hundreds of times on different occasions. For the customers at the scene, they were already familiar with it and couldn't be more familiar with it. However, the feeling of listening to it in person was completely different. Although this impromptu band could not be compared to Black Memory, and the cooperation between them was very unfamiliar and lacked enough passion, Liao Jia's singing was enough to cover up all the flaws. His voice was hoarser than it was in the past, and it was no longer as passionate as it was in the past. Even his roar was not so powerful. However, the vicissitudes of time were like aged wine that became more and more fragrant, going straight into the soul and making people tremble involuntarily. The bartender standing behind the bar put down the shaker in his hand, and the waiters no longer walked around to serve drinks. Instead, they quietly hid in the corner. Several resident singers and band members of the bar looked at Liao Jia, who was roaring wantonly on the stage, with eyes full of admiration. The customers in Black 6 Bar had different reactions. Some of them pursed their lips and looked very serious, some clenched their fists and shouted silently, and some had sparkling eyes. Everyone seemed to have returned to the glorious rock and roll years, especially the middle-aged people in their 40s. When Liao Jia led the band Black Memory to conquer the mainland, they were young and could not fully understand the meaning of this work. The ruthless years made them understand what they did not understand before. Now that they heard this song, Old Guy, again, the feeling was completely different. Even if their hearts were already as hard as iron, they could not help but be deeply moved. Because they had become, or were about to become, the old guy in the song. Lu Qin stood behind Liao Jia on the right side. It was the first time for him to play in a band as a non-lead singer, and he felt very fresh. In addition to this fresh feeling, the shock in Lu Chen's heart was no less than that of the fans at the scene. Because he saw a kind of strength in Liao Jia, a kind of persistent and tenacious strength for music and rock. He saw the most valuable quality of this rock and roll veteran who liked to smoke, drink, and scold people. Lu Chen couldn't help asking himself if he had reached such a level in music. The answer was obviously no. He wrote novels, wrote screenplays, made TV shows, made movies, invested in games, invested in media companies. His career was getting bigger and bigger, and he was making more and more money, but it seemed that he was getting farther and farther away from his original music dream. Lu Chen could not help but fall into deep thought. He did not doubt whether he was going the right way, but was he going too fast and in such a hurry that he missed the scenery along the way? Until Liao Jia finished singing the last line of the lyrics, "Goodbye, you old guys forever." The audience was silent. After a moment, applause, cheers, and whistles filled the bar in an instant, like a summer storm, even breaking through the walls and windows and spreading to the streets outside. A large circle of people had gathered outside Black 6 Bar. They were all fans who had rushed over after getting the news, but were blocked outside by the waiters. Although the bar had already put up a sign at the door, not many people were willing to leave. They heard the cheers and applause, and the crowd was in a commotion. Chapter 6:12. After singing Old Guy, Liao Jia, the old guy, had beads of sweat on his forehead. Although he said it was for fun, he was still very focused and serious when it came to singing. Even if he was not at his peak in the past, it was enough to shock everyone present. The people in the Black 6 bar expressed their respect and love with neat and warm applause. Although there were not many fans present, the atmosphere and momentum they created was not worse than some concert scenes. Anyone who was in it would feel their blood boiling and excitement surging. For a singer, this feeling was unparalleled. "Thank you," Liao Jia said, "thank you for still liking the songs of an old guy like me." Someone immediately shouted, "Brother Liao, you'll never get old. You'll always be 28 years old." Always be 28 years old, this was what Liao Jia once said to his fans at a concert. Those who were familiar with Liao Jia knew this joke. Many people laughed and shouted, "Brother Liao will always be 28 years old." Liao Jia also laughed. He smiled and waved his hand, saying, "That was in the past. I'm really old now. The future belongs to the young people, too." He turned around and pointed at Lu Qin, saying, "That's theirs. Let Lu Qin sing a song for you." "Okay." Although Liao Jia only sang Old Guy and had no intention of continuing, everyone was still satisfied. Moreover, Lu Qin was also a singer they liked. Therefore, the applause continued to welcome Lu Qin. Lu Qin found it hard to refuse the enthusiasm. He said while holding his guitar, "Brother Liao is too modest. I also think he will never get old. At least in our hearts." Everyone laughed, and someone whistled loudly in great agreement. Lu Qin continued, "I'm also half a Hangzhou person. This time, I came with Brother Liao, Miss Chen Fei, and Sister Shifang to record the show, China's Voice. I hope everyone will support us." The laughter in the bar became even louder. No one expected Lu Qin to advertise his show here. A few fans shouted, "We'll definitely support you." "Thank you," Lu Qin smiled and said, "then I will sing a song for everyone. I wrote this song before, but I have never sung it. I hope everyone will like it." "Ha!" Lu Qin was going to sing a new song. Everyone suddenly became excited. Everyone felt that tonight was too perfect. They were really too lucky. Today was actually a very ordinary day, but they were lucky enough to meet their idol here. First, they heard Liao Jia sing Old Man live, and then they would be able to enjoy the new song composed by Lu Qin. People would die of envy if they said it out loud. Many people took out their mobile phones and showed off in blogs, Tieba, or QQ groups. He had never had such an opportunity before, and there might not be another one in the future. If he didn't show off now, when would he? Even Chen Fei pointed his phone camera at Lu Qin. However, she was not only recording, but she also opened the Whale TV app on her mobile phone, logged into the account of Lu Qin's Anchor Studio, and opened a live broadcast for him. Lu Qin signed a sky-high endorsement contract with Whale TV. Of course, he had the obligation to work after taking other people's money. There were also requirements for live broadcast time, so he couldn't be too casual. So usually, if Lu Qin had any important activities, the original studio would arrange for a live broadcast, which brought a lot of popularity and fan resources to Whale TV, and fulfilled his contract. This kind of formal live broadcast usually had advance notice, and sometimes, Lu Qin would suddenly open a live broadcast to give his fans a big surprise. All along, Lu Qin has been very sincere in managing his fans, so he has never abandoned the fans he first met in Whale TV, nor has he abandoned the Whale TV that gave him strong support. It's just that most of the time, Lu Qin couldn't do it himself. He had to borrow the hands of others. For example, the current Chen Feier. Chen Feier installed the Whale TV app on her mobile phone. She did not open a live broadcast in it, just to help Lu Chen complete the contracted time when it was inconvenient for him. Wasn't this an excellent opportunity? Of course, she also felt that it was quite interesting and fun. On the Whale TV side, Lu Chen's Anchor Studio logged into the live broadcast, and his online fans all received the system notification, so they ran over immediately. Wow! What day is it today? Big Lu Chen started a live broadcast. I just saw on the blog that my Chin, my Fei, her, Liao Jia, and Shifang were eating together. What happened? Could it be that China's voice? Throwing flowers to celebrate. I haven't seen my Chin on Whale TV for a long time. Damn, I just came up and I saw a bunch of aircraft carriers. It's going to explode again. Hey, which bar is this? I saw Lu Chen. I'm curious, who's taking pictures with their mobile phones? I'm curious too. All kinds of bullet screens and gifts flew up, filling the interface of the Anchor Studio. The number of viewers in the room skyrocketed, worthy of Lu Chen's title as the #1 celebrity anchor of Whale TV. Chen Feier, who was holding the camera, saw the bullet screen messages on the screen. She pursed her lips and smiled, reached out to open the anchor window, and used the front camera to take a picture of herself at the same time, appearing in the Anchor Studio. The Anchor Studio suddenly exploded, and the fans were excited. It's actually my Fei. Chen Feier. Chen Feier. Chen Feier. Chen Feier. Chen Feier. As I expected, it's my Chin and my Fei. That's great. Don't say anything else, let's throw the fish balls. My Fei will always be so beautiful. If the most popular person in Lu Chen's Anchor Studio is Lu Chen, then the second is Chen Feier. It's just that Chen Feier doesn't have much time to appear on screen, not to mention that she personally acts as an anchor for Lu Chen. But as long as she doesn't say a word or interact with the fans, everyone is still extremely satisfied. Then at this time, Shifang, who was sitting next to her, came over and curiously wanted to see the effect of Chen Feier's selfie. As a result, she also appeared in the selfie. This time, the fans directly exploded. Shifang. What the F***CK, the two heavenly queens. The live broadcast tonight is going to set a record, so lucky. It's really Shifang, I'm your fan. I feel like crying. In just a few minutes, the online fans in the live broadcast room have exceeded 200,000, but everyone's attention was completely attracted by the two heavenly queens, ignoring Lu Chen who was preparing to sing on the stage. Chapter 6:13. The lights in the bar dimmed, and the light from a spotlight fell on Lu Chen. Lu Chen sat on a high stool. He put one foot on the stool and held the guitar casually. Gently plucking the strings, Lu Chen had a feeling of going back to the past, back to the time when he was a resident singer in Forget Grass Bar. But now he is not the original him. Time is too fast, and too many people and things have changed. Soon, the bar quieted down, and the emotions aroused by Liao Jia's song, Old Guy, gradually subsided, and the atmosphere became peaceful and relaxed. Lu Chen reached out and adjusted the position of the microphone, and then said, "The name of this song is, The Story of Time." His eyes looked ahead, as if staring at the endless void, and there was a trace of memory in his calm eyes. The flowers in spring bloom, the wind in autumn, and the setting sun in winter, melancholy youth, I used to think so ignorantly. The windmill turns every day in the song of the cycle of the 4 seasons, I grow up year after year in the poem of wind, flower, snow and moon. The flowing water takes away the story of time and changes a person in that sentimental and waiting youth for the first time. Yellowed photographs, old letters, and faded Christmas cards. I'm afraid you've forgotten the songs I wrote for you when I was young. In the domestic pop music world, when it comes to Lu Qin, original folk songs are an inescapable topic. Lu Qin created his own world with his original, campus folk songs. You Who Sat Next to Me, The Brother Who Slept on My Upper Bunk, Love in the Wind, and other classic works are still sung by countless people, especially on campus. Many people like Lu Qin because they like his folk songs. But today's Lu Qin, in terms of creative style, has already moved from folk-light rock to more popular love songs. These classic folk works can only exist in his past albums. For the more than 100 fans in Black 6 Bar at this moment, they were extremely lucky, because they heard another new folk song by Lu Qin, and it was a typical campus folk song. Most importantly, Lu Qin's reprise of the folk song, whether it was the melody or the lyrics, was still so touching. Old vows are like colorful bookmarks in a textbook. There were many beautiful poems, but in the end, it was just smoke. The story of flowing water carrying away time changed two people. In that sentimental and first tearful youth. The long journey, the dream of yesterday, and the faraway laughter. How many journeys did it take for us to meet again? No longer the old familiar me with the old feverish dreams, nor is it the familiar you of the past who still has the same smile. The water, which carries away the time, changes us. In those sentimental memories of youth. Who didn't have a past? Who doesn't have youth? Who doesn't have a past worth remembering? Looking back on the past, who doesn't have regrets in life? This song, The Story of Time, which was played and sung by Lu Qin, easily evoked the memories buried in people's hearts. Youth is fleeting, time is fleeting, the flowing water takes away the story of time, and also takes away the sentimental youth. The listeners in Black 6 Bar were basically in their 30s or 40s. Most of them had already got married and started a career. Many of them worked hard in this city and understood the ruthlessness of time and the vicissitudes of life. This song, The Story of Time, mercilessly touched the softest part of their hearts. The layers of camouflage heart shields were so easily penetrated by Lu Qin's affectionate singing, and were unexpectedly exposed. One of the women, who was obviously an elite in the workplace, had a sparkling light in her eyes. She bit her lips tightly, and no one knew what she was recalling. Her expression changed, sometimes sweet and sometimes painful. Lu Qin's singing and the scene of the scene were also presented in the anchor room through Qin Fei's mobile phone. The messy barrage quickly disappeared, and even the tips disappeared. It became unprecedentedly quiet. At this time, in Lu Qin's anchor room of Whale TV, the online audience has exceeded the 1 million mark. Although Qin Fei still held her mobile phone dutifully, her mind was not on it at all. She was also deeply moved by this song, The Story of Time. She stared at Lu Qin intently, and her eyes flashed with tenderness. Time is ruthless, and her youth is also passing away. But to be able to be with Lu Qin, what a blessing in life. In those sentimental memories of youth for the first time. When Lu Qin sang the last line of the lyrics and played the last note, the audience was silent. Everyone was still immersed in the atmosphere created by the song. No one applauded, cheered, or spoke. It was not until the crisp sound of a bottle falling that everyone seemed to wake up from a dream. Then the applause sounded fiercely. It was very neat, pure, and clean. Everyone could only express their love for The Story of Time in this way, as well as their admiration for Lu Qin. At the same time, they thanked him for creating a new folk song that could become a classic. Qin Fei temporarily turned off the live broadcast. She put her mobile phone on the table and applauded with everyone. But she suddenly felt something strange. She turned her head and saw that Shifang, who was sitting next to her, had tears in her eyes. Qin Fei couldn't help but be shocked. She quickly held Shifang's hand and said, "Sister Shifang." Shifang embarrassedly raised her hand to wipe her tears. She said with a smile, "I'm sorry. I remembered something from the past. Lu Chen's song is so well written. Who doesn't have a past?" Chen Fei nodded understandingly and said softly, "Then let's go back early." Because she could see that Shifang's smile was very forced. Obviously, she was full of worries. Shifang shook her head and said, "No, it's rare for everyone to come out and have fun." Chen Fei insisted, "I'm a little tired too. I have to record the show tomorrow. I'll rest early tonight." Ignoring Shifang's objection, she called Lu Chen back and said that she wanted to go back. Lu Chen noticed Shifang's expression. Of course, he had no objection, but he respected Liao Jia and said, "Brother Liao, let's go back first." "What about you?" Liao Jia smiled and said, "I've had a good time tonight. Let's go." He said he was going to leave, and he was very straightforward. Seeing that Lu Chen and the others were about to leave, the fans in the bar were very reluctant, but they also knew that they couldn't be too greedy. It was already a great fortune to be able to hear Liao Jia and Lu Chen's live performance at night. They couldn't ask Chen Fei and Shifang to go on stage and sing, could they? They were there to have fun. They had no obligation at all. So, although it was a pity, Lu Min still led everyone to send off the big stars of the pop world with applause. Note: lyrics/composer of Story of Time, Luo Dio. Chapter 6:14. Lu Chen had just come out of the Black Six bar when he was shocked by the scene outside. He did not know when, but the bar was surrounded by countless people, blocking the entire street. Anxious car horns could be heard from afar, and many police officers were trying to maintain order. When they saw Lu Chen and the others, there was a commotion in the crowd, and many people started shouting, "Lu Chen! Chen Fei! Shifang!" These people were all fans who had rushed over after receiving the news. They could not enter the bar, so they waited outside. Among them were many teenage girls, holding fluorescent placards in their hands. Now that they had finally seen their idol, the fans could not hold themselves back anymore, and they all rushed over. These passionate fans wanted to get close to their idol, to get an autograph, to take a picture, or even to shake hands. Everyone had the same thought, and the scene became even more chaotic. If it was not for the bar staff and auxiliary police forming a human wall in time to stop the crowd, Lu Chen and the others would have been drowned by the crowd. Seeing this situation, Lu Min, who was escorting them out, was so scared that he started sweating. If anything happened, he would be the one to blame. What was supposed to be a good thing was going to become a bad thing. "Go back, let's go back first." Whether it was Chen Fei or Shifang, they were both people who had experienced great storms and waves. They had seen all kinds of fans, so they calmly retreated to the bar immediately, so as not to cause more trouble. Lu Chen followed them back. Lu Min wiped his cold sweat and said, "Let's go through the back door, there's a small path out." Lu Chen. A girl's cry came from outside the door, and it was very loud. Lu Chen could not bear to hear it. If he was alone, he would have no problem meeting his fans, signing autographs, taking pictures, and so on. However, he had Chen Fei and Shifang with him, so he could not act willfully. Ignoring her was the right choice. He silently apologized to the fan in his heart, then took out his phone to inform his assistant to drive to the nearest back door of the bar to pick her up. With Ryu Min's cover, they were able to return to the hotel without any mishaps. From that night onwards, Lu Chen and Chen Fei would no longer be staying at Tian's house, and officially moved to the Shangri-La Hotel. That was because the five-star hotel was the sponsor of The Voice of China. Not only did they sponsor the show, they also hosted the 4 superstar coaches for free. The 4 of them each had a luxury suite on the 58th floor. The hotel specially strengthened security and designated a special VIP area. Normal people could not enter, including paparazzi. Although Lu Chen and Chen each had their own rooms, they were definitely staying together. However, Chen Fei did not return to her room immediately, but went to Shifang. Lu Chen, on the other hand, turned on the computer in his study and logged into his blog. He posted a new post on his blog. He represented Chen Fei, Shifang, and Liao Jia to apologize to the fans waiting outside Black 6 Bar that night for not being able to sign autographs and take pictures with them. He sincerely asked for everyone's understanding, and also asked for everyone's support for the first season of China's Voice that would be broadcast on Friday, the 19th. Lu Chen's Waves blog followers had long exceeded 50 million. Furthermore, it was the weekend, so the moment his post was posted, it immediately attracted a large number of fans' attention and replies. The fans naturally expressed their understanding. Although there were many people outside the bar, to Lu Chen's fan base, it was not an exaggeration to say that they were just a drop in the ocean. Everyone said that they were looking forward to the broadcast of China's Voice. There were even fans who expressed their love for Lu Chen's new song, Story of Time, and hoped that Lu Chen would release a single. It was only then that Lu Chen found out that the video of him singing Story of Time at Black 6 Bar had already been posted online. It had already been forwarded and spread on various blogs, and the song had also made his fans very excited. This song is too good. It's a pity that it was recorded on a phone, so the quality isn't that good. I've listened to it more than 10 times, and I still can't get tired of it. It's true. I even cried listening to it. I still like the ballads that I wrote in the morning. It's very touching. It reminds me of my youth. Lu Chen happily browsed through the comments. For a singer, the sense of accomplishment that his work could be sincerely liked by his fans was not something that could be compared to how much money he earned. At that moment, Chen Fei returned. She came to Lu Chen's side and looked around curiously. What are you laughing at? Lu Chen carried her to sit on his lap and said with a smile, It's nothing. Is Sister Fang all right? Previously at Black 6 Bar, he had noticed that Shifang's mood was a little off after singing the song. Chen Fei shook her head and said, It's nothing. She was just thinking about the past and might be a little unhappy. I didn't ask much and just chatted with her for a while. It's nothing now. Lu Chen nodded. He had heard that Shifang had a rough life when he was in Xiangjiang. In fact, there were many celebrities who seemed to be very famous on the surface, but they all had some unbearable past. It was a very private matter, so it was right for Chen Fei not to get to the bottom of it. Chen Fei leaned into his arms and said softly, The song you sang tonight was very well written. I was very touched after listening to it. The blooming of flowers in spring, the wind in autumn, and the setting sun in winter, she softly hummed the story of time. Although she had only heard it once, there were not many mistakes in the melody and lyrics, showing that she had a good memory and sense of music. Chen Fei's singing style was different from Lu Chen's. It was not as heavy and sad, but more of a warm memory. It was like a spring breeze blowing through the fields, making people feel intoxicated. Lu Chen also liked it. Then I'll give you this song to sing. Chen Fei pursed her lips and smiled. I'll just sing a cover, but I think Sister Shifang will appreciate it. Lu Chen nodded. This time, Shifang agreed to come to Hangzhou to be a mentor for the Voice of China. Other than giving face to Lu Gangxing, she was also giving him big face. It should be known that this Xiangjiang Heavenly Queen rarely appeared on variety shows and did not even like to appear on TV. So, of course, Lu Chen had to repay her. If Shifang really liked this song and wanted to sing it, then he was very willing to let her do it. Let's not talk about this anymore. Lu Qin stood up with Qin Fei in his arms and said with a smile, let's go take a shower first and rest early tonight. Qin Fei's pretty face was instantly dyed with a layer of red, and her eyes were so charming that they were about to drip water. Lu Qin laughed and strode to the bathroom with her in his arms. Tonight was going to be another beautiful night. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.